Aita for not helping my wife's best friend get back with my wife after she accused me of cheating. Yesterday I came back home after work and I witnessed my wife crying. She was crying so much she couldn't even speak properly. After a lot of efforts to calm her down, I asked her for the reason of her crying so much and why is she behaving like this. I won't lie, at that moment my wife was acting like she's possessed by some entity from underworld. After she calmed down and I asked her, she told me that I am cheating on her. That's why she was heartbroken and angry at me. My situation is so dumb and hilarious and depressing all at the same time, and please excuse my pathetic English. I was confused cause I didn't cheat on her. Hell, I don't even talk to opposite gender unless it's necessary. My wife called for her best friend who told her that I am cheating on her. My wife's best friend said that I am a cheater and she saw me in mall and an older woman hugged me and kissed me on my cheek. I showed her a photo from that day and asked her if she's the same woman and she said yes. I was speechless, and when I showed the photo to my wife she went silent as well. I told her friend that the woman in question is our aunt. My wife got angry and kicked her out and said she doesn't want to talk to her. After she left my wife turned on me and I couldn't stop laughing, so my wife got angrier and told me that if she ever finds me talking to other women she'll skin me alive. I tried my best and stopped laughing and told her that I will agree to madam, but she must kiss me in return. After all this stupidity my wife calmed down, but her best friend is calling me and texting me and she's saying that I should help her get back with my wife and she didn't mean to hurt her. Maybe I was a bit mean, but I told her to deal with it. I am kinda happy that my wife and her stupid friend broke off and I have my wife all to myself, but I still feel like I should help her. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA, they accused you of doing something you didn't do and only regretted it once you cleared the situation. Reply, yeah, that's right. She accused me of something I didn't do. I didn't even have sex with anyone else other than my wife and I would never do that. I promised her that I will only be hers and I won't go back on my words because my words are gold. But I felt bad cause my wife's BF didn't know that the woman in question is our aunt and she might have misunderstood and thought I am filthy cheating man and wanted to help my wife, so I also appreciate her for trying to help my wife. That's why I was confused and thinking so much about this situation. Commenter 2, NTA, but not allowed to talk to the opposite gender. That's, well, seriously weird. Reply, nah, nothing weird about it. My wife commands and I obey her words is like a commandment, especially when she's like this, in demon form lol. Jokes aside, I won't even talk to other women unless I know them or I am related to them, and neither would my wife. My wife doesn't converse and stays away from other men. We belong to each other and I found this situation hilarious but a bit depressing. That's why I made a post about it. My wife and my marriage is good and healthy and we will stick to each until the end. Additional information from OOP after reading comments here in the original post. Reply, I read almost all the comments and maybe there's a bit of difference with how I and others think here, but I just want to clarify that I am not in an abusive relationship. My wife said she'll skin me alive because she was angry, and it doesn't mean she's some kind of psychopath. She said what she said because she obviously cares about me and wants me all to herself. Also, my wife is not forbidding me from talking to my co-workers etc. If it is a necessity I will obviously talk to opposite gender. She knows and so do I, but she was angry so I am too troubled by her words. I myself wouldn't converse with opposite gender unless it is a necessity or she needs help urgently, and my wife wouldn't either. And those who are telling me that my wife has a history, well, she doesn't. I have known my wife for a long time. I know her since childhood and I know everything about her. Commenter 3, your wife is crazy. Her friend is an idiot, but man, your wife just, what? You are not allowed to talk to any other women. Update. After my wife's best friend accused me of cheating on my wife ignorantly and I proved her wrong, my wife calmed down, but she was still a bit hysterical and angry and sad, and she apologized to me for not trusting me and jumping to conclusions. I assured my wife that I will never cheat on her, especially with our aunt, and if I do she can skin me alive like she wanted lol. Although the situation is a bit hilarious and dumb, but after I thought about it, if I couldn't prove it to her with the photo I clicked with our aunt, this might have broken my marriage or hurt it permanently. So I decided to talk to my wife and told her that her meddlesome friend is no longer invited in my house and she's not allowed to talk to me either. She can keep her friendship with her as long as it doesn't impact our marriage. I told her that I agree with her demands, that I won't be allowed to talk to opposite gender unless it's necessary or they are family or friends, but her bestie is not allowed in my house. My wife agreed and said she's angry at her friend for making her doubt me and she's not talking to her either. After this discussion my wife calmed down and she is getting normal again and we made out. Her friend asked for my help again and again, and when I had enough of her begging I blocked her. TLDR of my previous post is my wife's bestie told my wife that I am cheating cause I hugged and kissed a woman and I found her hysterical and I proved her that I am not cheat and the woman in question was our aunt. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. But you should have divorced your wife. She still doesn't trust you. Reply, no, she trusts me, but she got caught off guard by this accusation which came from her own bestie. That's why she was so hysterical. I have known my wife for as long as we've been alive and she's emotional, which is why she is angry at her bestie, because she threw accusation at me without any concrete proof, which made her appear as a fool in front of me. I know her. Commenter 2, so if you go to a store and there is only female workers there, I am assuming you are not shopping at that store then, since it's not necessary to shop at this store and you can just travel to another store. Or you are working and some women wants to make small talk. But it's not necessary to make small talk when it comes to work, so you will not talk to the women. Who am I kidding? You and your wife are absolute fucking morons. Won't be long before some other bullshit comes up and you two are fighting again. Reply, no, you got it all wrong. If I go get groceries and the cashier is a female, then it is a necessity for me to interact with her, not small talks with her, cause I wouldn't do that anyway. I have my wife and family to do that. Maybe there's a bit of cultural differences in the ways we think and we don't care about the way we do, but I didn't post to get opinions on my marriage. I posted mainly to understand if I am doing right by asking my wife to keep her friend away from me and blocking her. Also, since my wife comes from my community, I will take care of her and agree to her demands. She's not psycho who'll skin me alive, and it's not like I will marry a woman from a different community anyway. My wife is my priority and I will do what's best for our marriage. Maybe some here will agree, maybe they won't, but it won't change anything for me. Stories number 2. Aita for sending my ex's wife a binder documenting his abuse after I found out she was pregnant. I have an ex who I was in an abusive relationship with that ended with quite a bang. He was arrested for harassment and threats with a dangerous weapon, put on probation for 5 years, and can never own a firearm again. The abuse started mentally, then financially, then physically. During my years with him, I did think to save a good amount of evidence of the abuse and documented a lot in personal journals. In the years since, I've gone to a lot of therapy, and I mean a lot, and ended up compiling that documentation into a binder. I basically scrapbooked my way through processing trauma. And that binder has been sitting in a storage unit since I moved in with my now husband. Well, I knew that my ex ended up marrying a girl I knew from high school who was sweet and smart and very liberal. This guy was a deadbeat, misspelled a tattoo he did on himself, and wished he was at the Capitol on the 6th. I swear my taste in men isn't total trash, my husband is amazing. But the pair never made sense to me, and I just prayed that he was capable of change and didn't do what he did to me, to her. When I found out she was pregnant with his kid, I couldn't stop worrying about her. I found out, as expected, the story she got was that I was crazy and a cheater and I made things up, and she likely didn't even know about his arrest and conviction. I don't know what their relationship was like behind closed doors, but I knew that I'd have an endless amount of what-ifs if he had a child with her and was anything like he was with me, because nobody deserves the treatment I got and no child should ever have to see that or think it's okay. So, I made a copy of every single page I put in the binder and packed them up with a handwritten note offering to talk about anything if she'd like. I gave them to a mutual friend to deliver so he couldn't intercept. About a week later, she texted me. We met for coffee and she brought the papers, pulling pages out one by one and asking for context and comparing the story he told to mine. After a bit she just sat silently and told me how sorry she was for what I went through. I was a little surprised she believed it, no question, and she told me she didn't believe any of it until the official court records and my victim impact statement. Then it was like it all clicked how real it was. I offered her a room or any help if she wanted to leave, but she said she was going to head home and pack a bag for her parents. It's been a few days since and she's staying with them until she decides her next move, but hasn't told him the real reason behind this all yet. At first I had no doubt or regret about what I did. But I've had some people tell me that I had no business blowing up her life and I have no idea what he is like now. But I was doing what I think I would want someone to do for me. I'm not sure, Aita. Stories number 3. Aita for kicking out my mom's boyfriend. When I was 17 my mom came into money. She tried to keep it quiet but she paid off my dad's debts, bought him a small house, paid off her debts and paid for my sister's college and set up funds for mine. She had a boyfriend at the time and shortly after him and his son who was 7 moved into our new house. Over the next few years mom bought my sister a house after she graduated college. Her boyfriend lived with us and didn't pay anything but he did work. When I was 21 mom got diagnosed with cancer. It wasn't good. She sat me and my sister down and went over exactly how much money there was. She intended to give her current house to me and both me and my sister were left with a large sum at the end of it. She asked if I would allow her boyfriend to stay in the house with his son until he got his own place. I agreed. Before she died she told her boyfriend he would need to look for his own place but had time to save more for that journey. For the last 4 years he has continued to reside in the house with his son. I haven't minded because we get along okay. I pay all the bills but he does buy food for him and his kid. He has dated off and on and mostly kept the women out of this house which I respected him for. Until his current partner. She's been in my house 3 times and at first besides feeling a little uncomfortable I was okay with her. The last time this past weekend was the point where I lost my shit. I was making myself some lunch when she came walking downstairs. She grabbed a plate and went to grab food out of my pan. I asked her what she thought was doing. She started telling me how I should look for somewhere else to live, and leeching off my dead mom's past relationship as an adult was pathetic. I hollered for my mom's old boyfriend. He came down and I told him I didn't know what he current thing thought, but I wasn't going to be disrespected in my house. He wouldn't even look me in the eyes as he mumbled something about my mom promising him the house and he was just being kind, letting me stay. First, that isn't remotely true. Mom pulled him and I together after she asked if he could stay to set expectations. My mom met him shortly before she won the money and told him and us girls that she had no intention of leaving him money. She did set aside a fund for his son for college when he gets there, but he cannot touch it, only his son can. He has lived in this house almost 8 years without paying a dime. He should have plenty of money, and if he doesn't, that's on him. I told him he had 30 days to leave. I wasn't going to house someone who would lie and disrespect me in my house. He left that night with his son, but his ex-wife called to tell me I am cruel and an for her son losing his house. He is here every other week. I really feel like my mom didn't expect him to still be here, but my sister said she feels like I am breaking my promise to my mom, and that made me feel like maybe I am the Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. The critical part here is that your mom asked you to let him stay until he got his own place and to give him time to find one. In that time, instead of looking to move somewhere else, he continued to settle into life in the house, to the point where he even started bringing a new girlfriend along. He moved on but didn't move out. Him lying to her and telling her this was his house tells you everything you need to know about his actual intentions to leave. You kicking him out wasn't abrupt. The clock had run out on your mother's kindness and your obligation to her a long time ago, and he was living there on generously borrowed time. Commenter 2. OP's mom probably expected it to be a month or two since he's working but has no living expenses and didn't during their relationship, not 4 years. Where the hell is his money going if he can't get his own place? Commenter 3. He had at least 4 years to save before OP's mother passed away, plus the 4 years since then. He has only been paying for food and presumably his phone, car insurance, fuel etc., in that time. He should have incredibly healthy savings. Especially as he was living with his sister to save up before that. The mother probably thought that he'd take a month or two to grieve, spend a month or 4 looking in earnest, and be out of OP's hair within the year. If he was saving say $1,500 a month while the mother was alive, rent plus utilities and council tax local equivalent on a 2-bed house flat has to be at least that pretty much everywhere in what sounds like the US, right? That'd be 1,500 times 12 times 4 is equal to 72,000 before she passed, the same again since then, and whatever he had beforehand. Of course he could afford to move out straight away. Dude should have a good 150,000 minimum sitting in his bank account. That's most definitely, screw this, I'm off to a hotel to complain to people who I can tell a very slanted version of the story to. Money. Commenter 3. If it happened exactly how you said, you're not the asshole. If she did say he had time to save, but would need to look for his own place, that means she never imagined or wanted him staying for long. So you're breaking no promises. Did she leave him any money or assets? It's totally possible that your mother would be livid if she knew her boyfriend was still living with her son after 4 years. Reply. No, she created a fund for his son for his college, but that was the only money set aside for him or his son. It's a generous amount, enough for 4 years at a high-dollar school. Anything not used for school will be given to him on his 25th birthday. From what I believe she told me, a lawyer and accountant are in charge of those funds, not me or my sister, so I only know what she told us before she died. Commenter 4. Sweetheart, you are NTA. First, I am so sorry. I'm 63 years old and lost my mom 2 years ago and my dad 8 years ago. I am not dealing with it well at all. You are the only one who knows if you're telling the truth. It seems very plausible to me. But, if he was already saving money for a house when he met your mom, then lived 4 years with her and another 4 years with you, that man is just a loser. Is there any way your dad could come stay with you the week he moves out? The first thing you need to do is change all of the locks and get yourself some sort of security system. Please don't feel bad for making him leave. It seems to me that your mom was really smart and planned things out very carefully. Being that he had already lived with her for 4 years, I agree with the commenters who said she was probably thinking a month or two. Not years. If your sister makes any more comments, then you can tell her she's welcome to let him live with her. Again, so sorry for your loss. Please make sure you're safe and take care of yourself. Reply. Thank you so much. My mom was the sweetest person, and when I was a teenager I feel like I was a nightmare to her. I am thankful I was much better in my late teens and 20 and 21, so she got to see me mature a little before she passed. I wasn't always the best daughter, but she was always the best mom. Commenter 5. If he has stayed gone, I'm really hoping that you have changed the locks and gotten a security system. The first time I read what you wrote, I was thinking he walked out that night because he was upset. When I reread it, I realized that you were saying he moved out. Apologies for misunderstanding. Commenter 6. I ditto this comment. However, I am 53 and my mom passed last April. That leech has been taking advantage of your family long enough. You can either set the record straight with his ex and girlfriend or close the book on this chapter. But definitely know that your NTA and your mom request has been honored. I know that she is proud of you for being as good as you have been to him and his son. Take care. Commenter 7. How did his girlfriend react when she realized he lied? I would have liked to be a fly on the wall in that conversation. Reply, she sat with her arms crossed when he and I talked, but she didn't say anything else. She left with him. Update. I know the other sub is very subjective on updates, so I figured I would post it here. I do want to take a moment to address some things I saw in the comment. 1. There are trusts set up and neither me nor my sister has full access to the money left us. This was done both because my sister and I were in our early 20s when my mom died and she wanted to make sure we had some stability before we had access and to protect us from people who may try to take advantage, especially while we were grieving. 2. I have a lawyer. He has already informed me legally to my area what eviction laws are, and my mom's former boyfriend will be served with formal eviction papers just to cover myself even after today. So to the update. My dad came over, decided not to have my boyfriend over since he doesn't know about the money side and I wasn't trying to have the boyfriend out the situation, this morning, and brought along my cousin. For easier telling, I'm going to call mom's former boyfriend C. C showed up about 10 a.m. my time and talked to my dad, then asked if he could have a couple of minutes alone with me. Dad nodded, so my cousin and him went into the kitchen and C and I sat in the living room. I'll be honest, I didn't expect it to go as it had, but I am glad it did. C started with an apology. I don't remember all of the words said, but the basics were he missed my mom, he has been lonely but not alone thanks to me and his son. He was sorry for what had happened, that he got caught up in lust and let someone else fill his head with ideas, and that he owned up to his mistakes and should have never put up with someone who would disrespect me or my mom's memory. He tried to hand me a cashier's check for $15,000. He said it wasn't much, but he wanted me to know he appreciated me and living with me and that he wanted to pay back some of what he owed. I refused the check, both in part because I never wanted his money, but I also don't want to give any possible legal leg for him to stand on if this is somehow him trying to stay. I told him the first part and told him to put it towards a house. He told me he is living with his sister but is going to look at houses with a realtor next week. He did say his son is asking about our next hangout date and said both me and my sister are welcome to arrange time with him. After all of that, my dad and cousin helped him get all the stuff out of the house that he owned. He had brought a U-Haul, and he gave me back my house keys. He apologized again and left. Not what I expected. But it went really well and I feel a lot less like I let my mom down. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm just being nosy, sure, but how did the woman who thought she's getting you kicked out of your house respond to it all? Reply, no clue. At my house she just seemed smug and bitchy. I didn't ask C about her and honestly don't care. My house is nice, but it's not like it's multi-million dollars or anything. Commenter 2. Had you said all that stuff in the previous post to him away from his girlfriend? Were you not there when he grabbed her to leave? Just wondering, because I assumed it was said in front of her and that's why she left so easily instead of trying to fight to make you leave. Reply, all that got said in front of her was that I wasn't going to be disrespected in my house and he could have 30 days to find new housing and she was not welcome back. That was all I said in front of her and she kept a pissy face on but didn't say anything to me and walked out with him. Update. This is probably going to be my last update unless something unexpected happens, but I thought I would just give a quick update on C. So C called me last week and again yesterday. He put an offer on a house and yesterday got accepted. They expected close date is early next month, but I am very proud of him. I know everyone expected more drama, and honestly some of the comments had me worried, but it's been really good. He thanked me a lot for letting him have so much time here, offered me some money one more time for his time here which I again declined, but I did offer to help him move in when the time comes. Moving sucks. He put down almost half for a down payment, so he definitely was saving money during his time here and I'm glad everything that happened was an encouragement for him to get into a home of his own. I talked to his son yesterday after he got out of school. We are going to play laser tag this weekend with my sister and he is excited for the new house too. Update. I didn't expect to come back but I had a surprise this past weekend and I thought I would share some positives. So first off, C got his house. He closed and moved in this past week. He invited me over on Saturday to see the house and told me he had something for me. So some background on my mom. Mom was an amazing kind woman. She was also heavyset and very self-conscious. Most of the photos I have of her are Snapchat pictures she would send. She hated pictures of herself and she absolutely refused to pose for a camera. I have made many comments since she passed that I worry I won't remember what she looked like since so many photos I have are either old or filtered. So back to present day, C invited me and my sister over and showed us his new place. He thanked us for being amazing people and then he handed us each a photo album. Guys, he had hundreds of photos of my mom printed off for each of us. He told us he hated that she filtered her photos and he has secretly been taking photos of her their whole relationship because he loved the real her. He had snagged photos of us with her at the zoo, photos of her on vacations, photos of her napping, photos of her during hikes. Both me and my sister were bawling looking through these pictures of mom we never knew we needed. He had put some little card notes for dates of each photo and some descriptions on some. He managed to capture her smiling and laughing, things she would never take a picture of because she didn't like her smile. To me this book is priceless. So that's it, C is amazing and maybe we had one bad moment but it doesn't define him or I. He loved my mom and that matters. We are all going to get together for my mom's birthday in a few months and just celebrate the woman she was. Comments. Commenter 1. That's so wonderful, and touching. And I love that your mother was so beloved during her life, and now. And so glad that you updated a great resolution to a moment of poor judgment. Commenter 2. These photos are a real treasure. It's amazing how much joy can shine through in candid shots like these. I bet they bring back so many fond memories for you and your sister. It's wonderful that C had the thoughtfulness to capture your mom's true essence, her playful side as well as her tender moments. Stories number 4. I, 26M, bought my girlfriend, 25F, a car. She said that was my third and final strike. I come from a wealthy family, I now work in the family business so technically I'm not spending mommy and daddy's money anymore. Been with my girlfriend for a year and 5 months, she's the best thing in the world, doesn't matter how bored, sad, lonely, upset or even happy I feel she always makes it better. Now I don't like to show I have money because obviously that's not the best way to attract people who are actually interested in you and not your money, so when I started dating my GF I didn't spend a lot until I felt comfortable with her, that was 3 months in. I bought her a tablet that was somewhere between $600 and $700 I'm pretty sure. She seemed okay with it. I don't like to think I'm careless with how I spend but I also know I'm probably not the most mindful when it comes to my spending either. At 7 months in the relationship I decided to buy my girlfriend a bracelet that I saw while looking for a birthday gift for my little brother, it was $6,000. I know, saying it out loud maybe doesn't sound like a good idea but I've spent more on some truly ridiculous stuff, but for my budget it really wasn't as bad as it sounds. She wouldn't accept it and told me to return it, I kept telling her it was fine but she didn't want it. I told her to give it to her sister as a wedding present. She said no. Later she told me that me buying her that was a red flag. Around 8 months in, I realized I loved her and she told me she loved me right around the same time. I took her on a "we are in love" date. I thought since she didn't like the bracelet I'd keep things simple this time, no dinners at expensive restaurants, no gifts, no elaborate plans. Just us eating food from a local place we both like sitting by the mountain, one of her favorite spots. Everything went great and we left after a while. She told me in the car that though she had a good time she expected something fancier. Noted, 4 days ago she turned 25, I bought her a car. At this point we've been together 1 year and 5 months, are in love, talk about our future together, so I assumed it was okay to get her such a gift but apparently not. She thanked me in the moment but when we went back to her place she told me that was my third and final strike. That she thought I wouldn't do something like that again only this time even worse. She said she doesn't know what I can do to fix things. We aren't broken up but aren't talking to each other either. I guess the tablet was the first strike. When I buy these gifts I make it clear I don't expect anything back so she doesn't feel like she has to keep up. I never liked receiving gifts, I told my parents to stop when I turned 10. She's important to me and I guess I can be materialistic but I like to buy nice stuff for people I care about. How do I fix things? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. It sounds like there's zero communication here. Did you two ever sit down and talk about money problems? What is considered acceptable and what isn't? Reply. Not that exact conversation. The way I understand stood it was the bracelet was too much too fast, by time her birthday rolled around I honestly thought I'd be okay. She's financially independent, she takes care of herself so when we did talk about money it was never what was acceptable as a gift or anything like that. Commenter 2. So here's the thing. Receiving expensive gifts, especially early in the relationship, can make someone feel lesser than their partner. If she couldn't afford these on her own, or as easily as you can, it might make her feel like shit, both because she can't reciprocate and because it can feel as though she isn't as independent as she'd like. Sometimes it's just a feeling of being uncomfortable with anyone spending that much money in general, even more true if she grew up middle class or lower. This is where communication comes into play. Y'all need to sit down and have a conversation about money. She might never like expensive gifts. It might just be how she is. Y'all need to discuss it in detail to figure it out, though. Also, it sounds like your GF might like expensive experiences instead of things, judging by the way she said she expected something fancier for y'all's anniversary. As someone that came from a family that had to budget everything, the idea of someone gifting me a $6,000 jewelry item or a car makes me a bit uncomfortable. While it's not a bad financial decision for you, it would be for me, and it's hard to get past that feeling. Update. Okay, so, yeah. I asked her could we just sit down and talk. She said she doesn't want expensive gifts for multiple reasons. She felt like she'd be indebted to me, felt like a gold digger and felt like she could never do anything like that for me. She said it'd be okay if I occasionally brought her some chocolates or flowers. I apologized and told her that I enjoy making people happy, but I clearly wasn't accomplishing that by buying her stuff. I didn't consider the person receiving the gifts. I also expressed I didn't like a having strike system in place that I was unaware of. She said from now on she will just tell me when I do something that she has a problem with and that it was unrealistic of her to expect only 3 issues through the course of an entire relationship. Someone commented that if after buying her those gifts did I hope if even a little she would be less likely to break up with me. The truth is yes. But that's in everything I do. If it's making her breakfast in bed, coming over and doing all her housework or just rubbing her back or scratching her hair, I want to be the best partner possible. I hope that every single thing that I do makes her less likely to break up with me because I love her and I want to be with her forever. I also asked about the fancier date comment. She said that was her expectation. That she wasn't disappointed but kind of saw it as an occasion where I could have splurged a tiny bit but certainly didn't have to. She said we can find a medium because she knows what she considers a lot and what I consider a lot is different. That $6K for me and for her were very different. That a car for me and for her were very different. Speaking of, I now more than ever acknowledge the difference between my upbringing and those around me. Because of the pandemic and as my family's wealth gets bigger I realized how unaffected I was compared to everyone else, and still I want to do what I've always done. I say to my girlfriend that I'm interested buying something for myself. She says I can't spend 6 figures on something I wasn't thinking about an hour ago. And she's right, I don't need it, I want it. Being with someone from a different background has opened my eyes. I would have bought and already had it. She said I could do some good with my money. My family is going to begin giving to people affected by the pandemic but it's really just to make us look good. My dad didn't just wake up and feel like helping people. She says do that if I want to spend. We gave her car to someone who lost their job and it made her feel really good. Stories number 5. Aita for calling off my wedding because my fiancé wanted to invite her ex. My fiancé wanted to invite an ex to our wedding. From what I know, he was a dick who always put her down and told her that he was the best she could ever do. Naturally, I asked her why the hell does she want him at our wedding. She said she wanted to shove it in his face that she did amazingly for herself, and she got someone way better. While I appreciated the compliment, I asked her, are you really so hung up on him that you're gonna make our wedding about him? Honestly, once I said it, it was like someone else told me. I didn't even realize what I was saying, and I didn't even understand it until I said it. I told her that she shouldn't bother to invite him because we weren't getting married anymore. She was stunned, and eventually apologized and told me to forget about her ex. I felt angry and almost told her she's the one who needs to forge her about him. She spent the day telling me that she's sorry for bringing it up. I'll be honest, I'm even reconsidering the entire relationship now. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I don't think she is necessarily hung up on her ex. I think he may have tormented her to the point that she wanted to literally shove it in his face. Truth is he probably wouldn't have come. He would get to see how wrong he was and he's not going to do that. Reply, him coming or not is not the point. I don't want to be at the altar promising my life to someone who's thinking, man, I really hope my ex is watching. OOP on needing to be a grown-up adult and let the ex come. Because we are grown-ass adults. Reply, do grown-ass adults really shove their relationship to an ex? That's a new one. Also did invite a couple of other exes just because we are still friends. Reply, you do realize this ex used to abuse her, right? Not exactly a fucking friend. Commenter 2, NTA for calling off the wedding, if her fixation on her ex raised serious doubts about the relationship. The fact that she wanted to invite him to shove it in his face shows that she's still emotionally tied to proving something to him. Update, first post. So we are gonna try some premarital counseling first. Our wedding has gone from being called off to being postponed indefinitely. My fiancée tried to explain why she wanted to invite her ex, but not only did she keep changing her answers, each one made it way worse for me. First, she tried to explain that she just wanted some payback. I told her, and if he doesn't care? Are you gonna rub in his face our first child? Our first home? She said she didn't mean it that way, and she just wanted to prove her worth. Which I then told her that I guess her ex is the only one who can determine her worth. We kept going like this for a while, and there wasn't a single answer she gave that didn't boil down to, she cares what her ex thinks and apparently she can't be happy unless her ex felt some sort of way. She denied it, but honestly I find hard to believe her. I don't want our marriage to be only worth something if her ex is the only one who can determine it. I refuse to be with someone whose happiness revolves their ex's feelings. I decided to at least try some counseling. We have been together for years now. FYI, she was with her ex for about 2 years, 3 years later she met me, and we have been together for 4. I figured I should try. So at least I can say I tried. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, it sounds like you're not holding out too much. Hope for counseling having any good effect. That's a very smart thing because I don't think it will. Reply, it's kind of hard to be hopeful after listening to my potential wife say she cares about what her ex thinks in like 10 different ways. Commenter 2, NTA, after 7 years broken up, 4 years out of the 7 with you, and sounds like she is still not over him. I wouldn't dare marry her. Commenter 3, it's been 7 years and she is still this obsessed. If you break up now, can you see yourself still being obsessed with her in 7 years' time whilst planning a wedding to someone else? Know your own worth. Update, we broke up. We went to counseling for months, and I just kept feeling worse and worse. Honestly, she things that kind of reminded of some comments I read on my previous posts. How he was meant to be nothing except something to be made fun of. I guess she simply did not understand I did not want her ex in there in any way, shape or form. Including in her head. I told her I don't want her to look at me at the altar with her ex in her head. She just didn't get it. She thought because she wanted him to feel bad, it was okay. Honestly, at some point I realized we were talking about her damn ex every day. And it just hit me. I don't want to ever hear her talk about him again. I don't want to hear his damn name again. I don't want my wife to constantly think about what her ex thinks of her. It's actually been a few weeks since our breakup, and I feel so relieved I haven't heard my ex talk about her ex. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, suggest to her parents that she gets therapy. Because she can't get over her ex, she'll never have a committed relationship. Reply, her parents aren't exactly the people who would try to convince her. Commenter 2, just curious, but how did she respond to you when you said enough, we are talking about him every day and this is not what I want, we are done? Did she talk about him while you dated? Reply, did she talk about him while you dated? Yep, I knew pretty much all the info about him I posted on here well before the whole invitation thing. She took it badly. She kept insisting on more counseling for at least a few more months and that I just don't get what she went through. Commenter 3, did she try to contact you? Or did she double down on her ex? Reply, we have talked a few times, mostly about finances and property. I picked up my stuff from our old place. She lived in our apartment before I moved in, so I moved out. Commenter 4, her ex was living rent-free in her head, and probably will be for a long time. Count yourself fortunate that you're no longer involved in that foolishness. Commenter 5, sorry you went through this ordeal, OP. I have to say, you made the right decision. You're right in your assessment. She's so caught up with her ex, she can think of nothing else. That's no way to start a marriage. Best of luck. Stories number 6. Aita for telling my husband he needs to book a hotel for us while we attend my SIL's wedding rather than share accommodations with his family. My husband and I are going to be traveling soon to attend his sister's wedding along with our 1-year-old son. The plan was that we would land at his parents' place and attend one of the wedding ceremonies there. A few days after that, there's another wedding reception in my SIL's soon-to-be husband's city. My in-laws plan to book a few train compartments for the entire family, and an Airbnb for the stay there, 2 to 3 days. I really don't want to be in a confined space with my in-laws for that long, especially with my son. My in-laws and I used to be cordial with each other until my son was born. A few weeks after delivery, my MIL and SIL visited us to help. All they did was just find any opportunity to hold him, regardless of whether he was asleep or in my arms, criticizing me for being too clingy with him when I would put my foot down and basically started locking myself in my room with him, lament how poor my cooking was and how sorry they felt for their poor son brother who had to endure it, until both my husband and I had had enough and my husband hinted heavily that they had overstayed their welcome. Since then, I get hounded for not sending enough pictures and videos of him, and how I dress him. I'm so grateful we're far enough away that we see them rarely. I told my husband a couple of days ago that I'd rather we just fly from his parents' place to the other city and just stay at a hotel while we attend the second ceremony. My husband said that would make us look snobbish, that he himself wasn't over the moon about the whole itinerary but it was a family event and we should be with family. The fact that he wasn't into it frustrated me even more because like we're all making ourselves uncomfortable for what then? We got into an argument, his mother and sister's stay got rehashed and I told him he was choosing to make me uncomfortable rather than potentially risk his family being affronted. Aita. Relevant comments. Comment 1. NTA, while it is a family event, being locked in with family for the train ride and then in an Airbnb will be very uncomfortable for everyone since you have a 1-year-old. They need routine and peace and quiet to rest, and your family will want to pass him around and he will end up possibly sick. It's fine to have him visit with family for a reasonable amount of time, but he needs time to nap and play without the overstimulation. Use him as your reason for the alternate trip plans and advise the family that you would feel horrible if his crying ruined everyone's fun time. You can even let them know he is teething starting his terrible twos early possessed by a demon so there is no pushback. If your husband really wants to stay with the family, let him know he will be in charge of the cranky 1-year-old and you will be in another car getting a nap in yourself. Comment 2. How long is the train ride? Would going on the train but staying at a different location hotel be a compromise that would work for both of you? Reply. The train ride is 22 hours. A flight would be 1 hour 45 minutes. Just thinking about that 22-hour train ride is stressing me out. Comment 3. NTA. Let your husband spend time with his family. Make the flight and hotel arrangements for yourself and your son. Let him deal with the fallout. They already treat you poorly, who cares if they think you're a snob? You are never going to be good enough for their son brother. Why bother trying to keep the peace as so many people love to make others do? They didn't care about offending you by shit-talking whilst you recovered from birth. Which WTF, they would not have eaten if it was me because I would not have cooked for them. Both now and before your husband failed you, do what you want and let him do as he sees fit. Maybe don't bother going at all. Your SIL doesn't seem to like you, why bother supporting her? Reply. Thank you so much. I'm really glad to read the comments here. His comment about it coming across as snobbish had given me a bit of a pause, but honestly the train trip and the 3 days at the Airbnb have been on my mind this entire time. I'm going to take the flight there even if my husband wants to take the train. I really want the 3 of us to stay at the hotel together though. I'm going to insist that we stay at a hotel again. Update 1. After reading the comments in my original post, I had decided that taking the flight with my son rather than the train was non-negotiable. And I hope to convince my husband for the 3 of us to stay at a hotel. I brought up the topic with him again, and said that a 22-hour train ride wasn't fair to our son. He's been doing really well recently with his sleep cycle, messing that up for my in-laws' sake wasn't right, regardless of what they ended up thinking. I was firm about it. He finally agreed. I thought it meant my son and I would be taking the flight and my husband the train, but he said he'd be taking the flight with us. He said the long train ride would be horrible for him without us, and that his family would bring up me taking the plane and he didn't want to be around for that. I was really happy and decided to bring up hotel accommodations and he agreed to that too, saying that his family were already going to be mad at us for taking the flight, so at this point, we might as well make ourselves comfortable. When he told his parents about this, they did not take it well. My MIL complained about how everyone was looking forward to playing with and entertaining our son, that it was a family event and it wouldn't be fun without us. She even suggested to him that I could take the plane and my husband and son take the train, but my husband shut that down, said that our son doesn't react well to having his normal routine disrupted and we'd see them there. So that's that. This has been such a weight off my shoulders. Since we're taking the flight, we'll be there a day before everyone else and can tour the city by ourselves. I also hope we can avoid having to go to the Airbnb for everything, like they're going to expect us to have breakfast, lunch, dinner with them, but I'll rather we do our own thing for the meals, at least breakfast. But still, this has been such a relief. Thank you to all those who gave me advice in the original post. Relevant comments. Comment 1. NTA and wow. MIL wants a 1-year-old on a 22-hour train ride for her own entertainment. Tell her to rent a baby or get a dog. Insanity. No one in their right mind would be okay with 22 hours on a train with a baby unless it was absolutely unavoidable, like if you were fleeing the country. Comment 2. NTA, make it crystal clear to MIL that access to your son involves being polite and respectful towards his mother. Otherwise she is looking at years of very limited contact. She needs to understand that her current methods are backfiring on her badly. Reply. We already have limited contact by virtue of where we live, thankfully. We'd made it known that she'd overstepped lines when we politely but firmly suggested it was time for her to go back when she'd stayed over, but that hasn't stopped her from being overbearing regarding pictures and what he wears and what he eats though. So I don't even know if it's worth the trouble anymore. Comment 3. I may have missed it in your post, but is your baby the first grandchild? Reply. Yeah, he's the first grandchild on both sides of the family. Stories number 7. AITA for installing a keylogger in my son's computer. I'm a single dad, 43 years old. Computer programmer. My son, let's call him Jack, is 17 years old. Jack's mom died when he was 10, but thankfully we both handled our grief together quite well. When Jack got his first laptop, 5 years ago, I took my time explaining how the internet worked, the dangers, etc. I allowed him to create a social media account, as long as he allowed me to check on it whenever I wanted, which was a privilege I made use of a few times until he turned 15 and I realized I could trust him, having never asked for it since then. He allowed me to know where he stored his account passwords just in case, but I never really looked for them, so his social media and computer activity have been a complete mystery to me in the last couple of years. However, I was always fearful he would try to hide something or get into something dangerous, so I installed a key logger just in case, always thinking about his safety. I never had to use it and, the more I watched him grow up, I realized I would never really use it, but I never bothered to remove it. My sister and I were talking about this in a casual conversation regarding privacy and privacy apps and my niece overheard us. They were born the same year. She got offended I would do such a thing, claiming it was a horrible invasion of Jack's privacy, and that I should be ashamed, and the only reason she hasn't told my son was because my sister told her she'd ground her for meddling in my parenting. So, Reddit. Aita for having installed a key logger even though I never had to use it. Top comments. Commenter 1, YTA. No different than a mom threatening to read her teenage girl's diary. Your child is almost an adult now, so there is no need to threaten invasion of his privacy. This is a violation of trust between you and your son. Even if you don't use the key logger, it's still hanging over his head for you to use against him. Commenter 2, I don't understand your comment. He installed it when his son was 12. The internet is full of creeps, so of course as a parent you should monitor what is going on during the use. The only fault I see, and that's what you said also, is that he should have taken it out when he became more mature. Also, he stated that he never used it. And the son isn't aware. So it isn't like he is actually threatening to breach his privacy. He should definitely take it out ASAP though. Edit, NAH but YWBTA if you didn't talk to your son ASAP and uninstall it. Commenter 3, info did you install the key logger when he was 11? If you installed it back then, NTA. Tell your son and uninstall it. You were doing it for his safety. The number of abductions due to predators on the internet is scary enough and most parents don't know anything or have a way to look for info. If you did it much more recently, YTA. Definitely tell your son, apologize and uninstall it. Reply, I installed it when he was 12, yes. I honestly never removed it because recently I had kind of forgotten about it until this conversation with my sister, and since he is getting a new laptop in a few weeks anyway, I didn't want to bother with it. Commenter 4, since you put it on there when he was 12 and you don't use it, NTA. Your niece may well decide it's worth the risk and tell him anyway, which could get really ugly. So tell your son the truth, you put it on there when he was 12, you don't use it, but you never got around to uninstalling it. Apologize for that. Offer him a choice, you can uninstall it, he can uninstall it, or he can leave it there since he's getting a new laptop anyway. If there's a way for him to confirm the last time the program was accessed, tell him how. This is the key part, teach him how to check for spyware, malware, key loggers, etc. Don't give yourself admin privileges on his new laptop. This is a really good chance for you to model how to maturely apologize and make amends. Update post. So this blew up. I read all the comments and I really appreciate the insight on both sides, which I will not comment nor give my opinion on since a verdict is a verdict. Each person is entitled to their own opinion, but I want you to know that I took into consideration all of them, even with the majority considering me an asshole. It took me 2 days of pondering, especially with the threat of my niece telling Jack everything, before I sat him down and talked to him. I came out clean, told him about the key logger, then explained to him what it did, why I did it, and how it worked. Jack believed me when I told him I had never looked at anything. We both shared a laugh when he told me he believed me because A, I am a complete airhead, so it is perfectly believable I forgot about the key logger for years, and B, he admitted to having watched porn, and he is sure I would have commented on it, because both my sister and I both openly dislike the porn industry. He told me he isn't mad at me, that he's glad I told him about it now instead of, say, 20 years from now, and that he would have done the same thing in my situation, key logger and everything. I showed him how to remove it and how to look for it in further devices, and we had a look at a few laptops together. I ended up buying him a new one and helped him set it up, yes, no key loggers. He let me know the password he used, in case it was necessary. Regarding my niece, she didn't tell him anything, but my sister and I had a conversation with them at the same time over dinner. My niece used the same argument as many of you did, with it being the same as reading a diary, and it was one that both my sister and I agreed with. My sister was admittedly much stricter with her daughter than I was with my son, since she checked her texts and Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp messages, but she admitted it was because of her massive fear that everything that is uploaded to the internet lasts forever, and she was afraid of things like nudes being leaked, undesired contact with bad people, cyberbullying, or any possible hurtful things. They ended up agreeing to disagreeing, and my sister promised to start trusting my niece more with these things, since she knows she won't be able to do anything about it once she turns 18. I want to thank you all for the feedback and for your suggestions over how I should handle this, even the ones who called me an asshole. I felt like I owed you this update. Stories number 8. I, 17F, need advice on how to tell my aunt, 30SF, that I cannot babysit her daughter any longer. This might get long, and be semi-ranty, so skip to the bottom for TLDR. Anyways, this year I am a junior in high school. I was looking for a job that wouldn't be too stressful, take up too much time, but still allow me to save up for a car. Currently, I have a full schedule and am taking an online college course. My aunt contacted me a few weeks into the school year asking if I could babysit her 7-year-old daughter for varying hours after school. She said depending on how many hours I worked, she would pay me from $50 to $100 a week. I thought that was fine, it was only after school for a few hours, ECT. My aunt lives in the same town as me, so I just rode the bus home with her daughter. For the first few weeks, it was fine. She paid consistently, she was nice, ECT. I do not really like the kid. I don't really connect with kids well, but I didn't think it would be too much of an issue since I'm not trying to raise it. However, this kid is honestly one of the worst behaved kids I have ever met. Around her mom, she acts like an angel. Around me, not so much. Some incidents include running away when I wouldn't let her eat a can of frosting, faking an asthma attack and pretending not to know where her inhaler was, so I called her mom and almost 911, and breaking things such as glass when she gets angry. Then, her mom increases the hours that I'm working, but not the pay. Currently I work from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. every day, and get paid $50 a week. I have tried explaining that I refuse to work 25 to 35 hours a week for $50. Whenever I say this, she gets really upset and even cried once about how she can't afford to pay me anymore. I feel really guilty, but I keep noticing that she buys her daughter expensive toys weekly, she's into magic, and she just bought her a magic kit that was over $150. Whenever I bring up these things, she says that no one will watch her kid, she will have to lose her job, ECT. My grades are suffering because I am in primarily honors AP classes and I don't have the time to do homework or even study for my SATs ACTs, because my aunt does not let me do homework while I'm with her daughter. She says I can't focus on her daughter and the work at the same time, so I get home, do my work until 1 a.m. usually, and then wake up at 6. My junior year is incredibly important. She has even started asking for me to work on weekends, which I can't even spend time with friends because I am catching up on a week's worth of work. Next, every time I ask for a day off she loses it. I have been planning a trip to Europe with my school for about a year now. I told her about it when I first started working for her, and it's happening in a few weeks. Last week she told me I couldn't go because she needed someone to babysit her daughter. She explicitly told me I couldn't go. She didn't ask if I would skip it, she said I couldn't. I explained it was fully paid for and non-refundable and an experience I do not want to miss out on, and she started crying and screaming at how inconsiderate I am, how she's going to have to take a week off of work, lose her job, ECT. I'm honestly baffled at this, considering I told her in September. Her 21-year-old son also lives at home and does not have a job or go to school. I am wondering why he can't watch her for a week, or really at all. When I asked why her son couldn't watch her, she said he was getting a job. This was in January. He still does not have a job. Now on to the real problem. She has assumed, without consulting me, that I will be working for her from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day during summer and then continue the schedule I have now onto my senior year. I have not even managed to save up enough for a decent car because she doesn't pay well, and I am definitely not going to continue this. I have resigned to do it until my junior year ends, but that's it. This summer I am doing a range of programs for pre-college and try-a-major type programs. I will be busy, and my senior year I am taking an online high school class as well as 2 college classes outside of school. I will simply not have the time nor energy to deal with this woman and her child any longer. My question is this: how can I get out of this? I want to tell her way ahead of time so that she doesn't have more leverage to guilt trip me about when the time comes for me to stop working for her. I have brought this up once before, and she yelled at me and claimed I was trying to get her to lose her job because she will have no one to watch her daughter. I don't know how to get out of this without being guilt tripped. It is not my responsibility to care for her daughter for the year, when I took this as a casual after-school job. TLDR, I started babysitting my aunt's daughter under the guise it would be a few hours after school each day. It is upwards of 25 to 35 hours a week with very little pay, is extremely stressful, and is causing my ability to do schoolwork to decline. She guilt trips me every time I try to get more pay, and I don't know how to quit this job once and for all because she says I am going to make her lose her job if I don't babysit her daughter. Please give me advice on how to approach this, and how to put my foot down. I have never been good at confrontation, but I cannot handle this for another year. Thank you. Edit. I have spoken to my mother about this and she told me to honor my commitment I made. My father is not in the picture, so I can't speak to him. Thank you very much for all the advice I have been given, it really means a lot. I have tried speaking to friends about this, but they all have jobs working at McDonald's and things like that, so they have set schedules, pay, etc. I live in a very small town and there is not a daycare or things of the sort. I forgot to mention that she also drives me home afterwards, 5 to 10 minute drive, since I don't have a car, and claims the gas money to drive me home is part of the reason she can't pay me more. Edit 2. I also forgot to mention I have a therapist, and I have spoken with her about this. She does believe I am also being used by my aunt. She says for this many hours and a babysitter of my caliber should not be paid this little. This statement kind of got the gears turning and made me realize that I can't keep doing this for the next year and a half. Update May 31st, 2015, 2.5 months later. First, thank everyone who responded. I was very surprised to see the outpouring of people who could relate had helpful advice. I'm sorry I didn't respond to everyone, but I'm very thankful. I want to say that I kind of fudged the part about her being my aunt. She's not really, she's my mom's distant cousin that happens to live in our town. I was looking for a job and my mom saw on Facebook she asked for someone to babysit her kid. So, she's not technically close family even. I just didn't want the post to be specific because I don't know if who was involved goes on Reddit, but I don't care anymore. So, what happened was I talked to my not really aunt the day before I had to leave to go on my school trip to Europe. I kind of planned this in a way that she couldn't try to talk me back into while I was gone, since I had no access to texting. The day before I talked to my aunt I told my mom everything and how my school work was being affected and that it wasn't helping out family anymore, it was being taken advantage of, and all of the points that were brought up by other Redditors. She finally agreed that it was wrong of me to be doing, and that her son should watch the kid or someone else who actually could control the kid better. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the last post, but the kid I babysit has increasingly become badly behaved. One day I dyed my hair brown and she said, "Why would you do that? You look like AF * King Monster," as an example. So, on to the drama. When my not really aunt dropped me off at my house, I stayed in the car so I could talk to her and I said that I would be unable to continue watching kid when I returned from school. She immediately tried to say that that wasn't possible, she doesn't have anyone else, etc. I touched on a few points such as, my grades are failing, I am taking a college class and finals are coming up, I need to study. I cannot control her kid well enough anymore. The kid wasn't in the car during this conversation, her brother was watching her at the time. I am not being paid enough. She tried to convince me at this point she would pay me more soon. I told her I didn't want more money, I just didn't want to babysit anymore. I told her to look for other babysitters. I told her to go to care.com, I always see the commercials. I figured I might as well try something. At the end of it all, she basically told me that if I wasn't there to babysit the Monday I got back then she would be extremely disappointed and called me selfish and said that I didn't care for family. At this point I was kind of annoyed and I just got out of the car and went inside. I asked my mom to go talk to her because I kind of figured she wouldn't take me seriously. My mom lied to her and said that I could no longer work, like it was a punishment, because my grades were failing. She got pretty irritated and made a remark about how I wasn't adult enough to handle working and schoolwork at the same time, and that made my mom pretty mad and they got in a fight about it. I'm glad that my mom stood up for me, though. Anyways, after that things seemed okay. I got back and didn't go to babysit. There was a few texts like, maybe next year you could help again, and I was just thinking, nope. I waited a while to post this in case something else happened, but the most that's happened is her asking if I could watch her kid for a day or something like that. I never respond because I don't want to incite anything. All in all, I'm done my college classes, I'm going to be a senior soon, and maybe next year I can find a real job that I actually enjoy and get paid for. TLDR, my mom told her I was unable to work anymore because my grades were failing and they got in a fight, but I no longer have to babysit. I don't even know what to do with all this free time. Stories number 9. Aita for sterilizing myself against my partner's wishes. Okay Reddit, I need some unbiased outside opinions because I truly feel like I'm going crazy dealing with this situation. I, 28F, and my partner, 28M, have 2 children together and have been married for 8 years, for those 8 years I've either been on birth control when we were preventing pregnancy or tracking my cycle when we were trying to conceive, adding this just to give the community the context that reproductive responsibility has always fallen on my shoulders. Recently we discussed the possibility of being done with children since we have our two and the family really feels complete. My partner is in agreement that a third child is off the table for him as well. So with that I thought, great. I can bring up sterilization for either him or I. The reason I wanted this is because I've had every form of birth control before and none of them ever left me feeling 100% okay, so I wanted to be done with birth control completely since we both agreed we're done. It's been about 3 months since our talk about more children, so I brought up either getting a vasectomy for him or me getting a salpingectomy, removing my fallopian tubes. What I thought would be a productive conversation completely blew up. He outright refused a vasectomy, and when I was okay with that and said I'd happily get a salpingectomy, he completely flipped his shit on me, screaming at me about how he forbids it from happening and he won't allow me to damage myself like that. I ended up just leaving the conversation and headed to get our kids from school, but on the way I ended up calling my gynecologist to schedule a consultation for the salpingectomy after making sure I won't need my spouse's approval. So Reddit Aita, if I go through with the sterilization against my partner's wishes? Relevant comments. Reply, actually yes, sadly. My friend had hers done a few months ago and her gynecologist required a sit-down consultation with both her and her husband as well as a form stating that they understood the procedure and agreed to it, signed by both parties. Commenter 1, EW. He just tipped his hand to how he really feels, and it's unsavory. You're NTA, and I hate that you're questioning that. Your body. Your choice. You're done with kids, and this is a logical step. Why does he feel this way so strongly on both of you? What has him so twisted? Reply, I honestly wish I knew. He seems supportive of our friends, both men and women, who have had sterilization procedures. Your location. Reply, US, Louisiana. Is the husband usually that controlling? Reply, no, he's never shown any controlling behavior before, it's completely blindsided me. You should hide her birth control so her husband can't get to them. Reply, thankfully I have the IUD, it's been a bitch to my period but it's done the job. Update 1. Due to the support and advice I found on here, I managed to get the confidence and level headspace needed to try to have another conversation with my partner. After getting our children to their school daycare for the day, I went to our local coffee shop to pick us up each a cup. I figured it can either be seen as a show of care or a peace offering. Once I got home, he was sitting at our island doom scrolling through TikTok. I think we've all been there. I decided standing across from him would be a bit of a better choice, so I gave us our respective cups and asked if I could get his attention for a conversation. Well, what I hoped would be productive turned unproductive quickly as he sighed with an eye roll and turned off his phone. I started by asking the big question of if he wanted any more children. I even suggested he doesn't think about what I said on the subject and just tell me his feelings about more children. With that, he answered a firm no and told me, as he said before, a third child is and will always be off the table. I then asked him if he had any fears or concerns about surgery's medical procedures. He said no to this question as well. So I asked if he understood the procedure and what it entailed, and he said yes he does, which is why he doesn't want me to get it done. In his words, I wouldn't be a woman if I got any part of my reproductive organs, what makes me a woman, removed, and he refuses to allow me down that path. I then followed up by asking about his getting a vasectomy, and he said it's pretty much the same thing for men and he won't let anyone take away if manhood. The final question I managed to ask was, did he just expect me to be on birth control forever? And this man looked me in face and said, it's worked so well for me already, why change things up? Guys, as I stated in my previous post, I am miserable and in debilitating pain with birth control. At the end of this, I just grabbed my coffee and went sit on our porch, just trying to wrap my head around the conversation while he sit in the house acting like nothing is wrong and we're just having a normal day off together. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I'm trying to find a respectful way to ask this but not coming up with anything, so I'm just going to ask. Does your husband have any sort of intellectual impairment? The idea that you aren't a woman if you have surgery is so ridiculous that I can't believe a person with a 3-digit IQ would suggest that. Is there any possibility that he'd participate in couples counseling? Reply, as far as I'm aware he's perfectly fine mentally. I even would have called him intelligent before these recent discussions. Commenter 2, so he's already told you and shown you he doesn't care that you are in pain. What else can we tell you, honey? He doesn't care for you in the same way you care for him. Reply, I'm definitely realizing that. Makes me feel like every time he's taken care of me due to the birth control issues was just a lie. Has you considered about other types of birth control before going on the sterilizing journey? Reply, considering I've worked with my actual doctor very closely since I've turned 18 to find a birth control that works well for me, and they agree that my problems are caused by my birth control, for example being a bloody pain-filled mess unable to get out of bed during my periods, I think I'll stick to my doctor's evaluations. OOP explains the side effects. Reply, So my minor side effects are a heavy blood flow that I am constantly ruining clothes during my periods, pain so bad that I'm either unable to get out of bed or I pass out from it, depressive episodes, suicidal thoughts, and weight gain. The best times of my life is when I was off of birth control while we were trying to conceive our children. If wanting to be able to feel like that all the time is over emotional, then I guess I am. Update 2. Hey Reddit, I just wanted to give a small update. I've been reading all of your comments on my last 2 posts, I swear. I appreciate all the advice and kind words, sometimes even the unkind words, because it gives me more to think about. So to start, I've been at my sister's with the children all weekend. I told my husband that she was feeling lonely and wanted us to stay over. He believed it, as we usually try to do this once a month. I called off of work Monday so my sister and I can meet with the divorce lawyer that handled her divorce. I'm unsure if divorce will be the path I go down, but I want to get my ducks in a row before laying it all down for my husband. Also, I would like to answer some questions that I saw a lot of in my last post. Yes, I still plan to go through with the sterilization. I absolutely don't want any more children, even if this ends in divorce. I plan to tell him it's getting done no matter what he says or believes. There will definitely be no sex with him anymore. I feel like I lost all attraction and respect for him. The children don't know what's going on, they just think it's a fun time at Auntie's house. Condoms are a no. I exist because of a broken condom. I currently have an IUD, and while yes, it has been the best birth control I've been on, I still cannot function properly for a week out of the month due to pain, bleeding, and depressive episodes. No, he hasn't done anything like this before, which is what caught me so off guard with everything. Disagreements in our relationship have up until now been able to be discussed and compromised on. We grew up in a deep Catholic community but fell away from the church years ago. Commenter 1. I plan to tell him it's getting done no matter what he says or believes. Stop right there. He will clean out your bank accounts. Get this done quietly and quickly. Do not under any circumstances warn this man. Do not dismiss the seriousness of this moment. This is how you get dead. Reply. Thankfully our finances for the most part are separated. The only joint bank account we have is for bills and child expenses. OOP's thoughts on getting the procedure. Reply. I want the procedure for myself no matter my relationship status. I want to be done with birth control without a chance of children no matter where the future takes me. As well as the fact that this procedure reduces the risk of cervical cancer significantly, which it's common in my family, so that's a plus. I haven't fallen out of love with him per se, but I truly hold no respect for him right now with how he's treated me over this. I'm unsure if we will divorce, but I feel like it might be for the best, especially if to him this will damage me. New update. So I would like to start off by saying thank you everyone for the amazing support I've received throughout the comments and messages. I know I haven't replied in a while, but I have been reading it all. Now to start off, I'll update everyone on the meeting with the lawyer. I was able to talk through my options as well as what legally would be my husband's and what legally would be mine. I know my next steps of things would lead to divorce, and I feel confident in taking those steps if needed. After the meeting I went back home and got settled back in. I ended up just doing normal tasks until the kids got home, and when my husband got home I suggested getting the children to bed early so we can talk, so we did just that. He ended up starting the conversation by saying if I plan to get the sterilization then he wants a divorce because he can't be with someone who doesn't share his same values. At that moment I knew this was it for us, so I informed him of my consultation this week for the surgery and my intention to go through with it no matter what. There was honestly a lot of back and forth. I want to say it lasted for 3 hours before he said he's done and left the house. He's been staying at his mom's and hasn't really asked about the children staying with him. I have offered per the suggestion of my lawyer, but to no avail. Currently I'm getting a legal separation agreement written up, so hopefully start the divorce process peacefully or as peacefully as possible. The kids ask about him, but I just keep telling them he's helping grandma for a bit. I'm not sure how to tell them he won't be back. Thankfully my therapist suggested a children's therapist to me, so I plan to set them an appointment soon. I'm honestly not too sure where everything went wrong with us. I always felt like we had true love, but maybe I was just naive to any of the other signs. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Some advice. Document everything because he's going to make this as ugly as possible. Remain calm and civil at all times and, no matter what, don't ever lose your temper. If you're going to meet with him, try to have someone come with you. Reply. I've already been keeping communications through text, but I'll definitely have someone with me if we meet. I know he plans to come this weekend to get some things, but my sister has been staying with me so she'll be here. OOP explains on the providers doing the procedures without needing spousal approval when many others require it. Reply. Thankfully that's becoming less common. It seems a lot of providers are stating, at least in my area, when they're open to doing these procedures without a spousal consent. My friend's doctor wouldn't even schedule her a consultation without her husband coming along. Does OOP's partner know she met with a lawyer? Reply. I haven't mentioned meeting with a lawyer yet. I didn't want to throw any gas onto the already lit fire, especially with the kids home. His mom thinks we can still work it out and his dad seems to be staying out of it from what I'm understanding. Commenter 2, so he wants to be able to force you to have more children he won't interact with. CYA by documenting everything and recording whatever you can and the home that he abandoned if he ever comes by. Always make sure any interactions with him in the future are verifiable whether by witnesses or recordings. Even if he says he's bringing his mom with him, have your own witness there and possibly even record it. He may try to push you into arguments with him and then record it when you blow up at him, not showing the fact that he's been needing you for an hour. Like I said, CYA, all of your interactions going forward need to be documented. Stories number 10. Me A, 25F, med student with my non-medical BF, 26M, who won't stop asking questions. BF was one of those who wanted to go to med school till he took a few weed-out pre-med classes. Now he is in a non-science field and constantly asks me incessant questions. He'll be watching television, see some character has some disorder, ask what causes the disorder, ask about the drugs that treat it, ask about the mechanisms for the drugs, ask why the show isn't giving those drugs and how the drugs that show is giving actually work and why that's wrong and what would happen in real life if we did that. And on and on and on. I feel like I'm constantly being pimped. Pimping is when a superior, resident fellow attending, who's evaluating you asks you medical questions. It's one of the ways clinical medicine has been taught, tested for ages, and can at times be extremely stressful. BF will also come to me with off-the-wall claims. My coworker told me that zinc prevents all colds and 8 different types of cancer. How come you doctors don't have everyone on zinc? And he won't leave me alone until I look into zinc and give him some reason that he finds satisfactory. The baseline assumption is always that his non-medical coworker is correct and I have to defend why all us doctors aren't doing XYZ. I've explained that this is not how I want to spend my little time off from the hospital. When I have to look something up to shut him up, he tells me I'm lucky to be in med school and I should be happy that I'm learning things when I look them up to answer him. I feel small, I don't usually feel small, and I can't figure out where exactly the problem is here. I know I am lucky to be in med school. I also feel super frustrated and like I'm being pimped in my own home. Am I just being stupidly defensive? Should I just know more things than I do? Does anyone have a good method for dealing with this dollar hit? TLDR, med student. I answer questions all day long at work. BF won't quit with more incessant questions at home. Also demands answers to Dr. Oz's claims. This pisses me off. BF reasons it shouldn't. I'm frustrated and confused. Am I just too defensive and or not enough of an intellectual? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Why can't he look up the answers to his own questions? Reply. If I tell him I don't know, the response is, you're in med school, shouldn't you know this? Shouldn't you want to know this? And I've yet to come up with a satisfactory reason for why I don't or don't want to know it, so it ends up being faster just to look it up than to argue. Commenter 2. Ugh, I had a dynamic like this with an ex. I would sometimes tell him interesting facts or explain something to him in my field, bio, and he just couldn't simply let me be right. He would almost always contradict me like, oh, I don't really think so because of X or Y, X being an old wives' tale and Y being his own shitty mansplaining theory. If I tried to correct him, he wouldn't believe me unless I pulled a citation out of my butt. He could dismiss my opinion in my field out of hand, but for me to dismiss his, I needed peer review. Exhausting, and no matter how many times I was proven right, it didn't make him respect my expertise any more the next time I thought to share it. After watching him interact with some of my same-level coworkers, I saw that he would be interested, nod politely, and even genuinely believe them. And parrot their opinions. I put 2 and 2 together and realized it was sexism. After we broke up, I saw him doing more overtly sexist things, regarding his mother and sister, that I wouldn't have put up with. He knew to hide that side of himself in modern society. Though he keeps asking for it, your BF doesn't respect your opinion. Maybe it's sexism, or maybe it's because he knew you before you became an expert. He doesn't accept that, even though he was weeded out of your program, you could possibly be smarter than him. Reply. He would almost always contradict me like, oh, I don't really think so because of X or Y, X being an old wives' tale and Y being his own shitty mansplaining theory. If I tried to correct him, he wouldn't believe me unless I pulled a citation out of my butt. He could dismiss my opinion in my field out of hand, but for me to dismiss his, I needed peer review. Exhausting, and no matter how many times I was proven right, it didn't make him respect my expertise any more the next time I thought to share it. Oh my gosh, all of this. You put in words what I was having trouble verbalizing. It's this assumption that he can just say random shit and my arguments all require proper backing from an EJM or the Lancet. Though he keeps asking for it, your BF doesn't respect your opinion. Thank you for sharing. I've been so confused, but this feels really spot on. And I am so sorry you had to deal with this dynamic. What does the BF do for a living? Reply. Lol, he's a paralegal and applying to law school. Commenter 3. Give him a pop quiz on obscure laws in your state. When being told the BF will gaslight her, be prepared for gaslighting when you confront him. Speaking from experience, I would rather be mugged physically assaulted by a stranger than gas-lighted by someone I love, which I really should keep in mind when I date going forward. Update. Holy jeepers, that escalated quickly. I've never broken up with anyone before. I've been dumped or parted ways mutually, but I summoned up all my courage and called BF to meet up. To those of you who warned me to be prepared for gaslighting, you were spot on. Thank you for the warning. I told him I was tired of being pimped at home, tired of arguing about whether it was appropriate for him to pimp me at home, and that I'd spent far too much time fighting him over the issue. I told him while the questions were annoying as all hell, the fact that I'd repeatedly explained to him that it was stressful for me, yet he continually disregarded that and tried to shame me into doubting myself, was the bigger problem, and that his lack of respect for my comfort was a deal breaker. He informed me that he knew this was coming because I've always been an intellectual snob and his family had warned him about me from day one. He'd been wanting to dump me for months, but he knew I needed his support throughout med school, so he couldn't leave. Because he's a good guy and he would have felt so bad abandoning me. Everyone in medicine either suffers from narcissism, autism, or OCD, so he's glad he doesn't have to interact with me or any of my friends anymore. Law school is harder than medical school, lawyers are smarter than doctors, and he will always be needed, but I'll be replaced soon by Watson. He wishes me luck dying alone and becoming one of those sad lonely old lady doctors who has to resort to banging my residents for sexual relief. My mind is fucking blown. I went home and cried and threw up. What the fuck piece of shit did I fall in love with? I've never seen that side of him. I'd seen anger but not that. I don't know, guys. I'm overwhelmed. I really thought when I posted the original question that there'd be more of a debate. Like, expected some people to say, oh, he's just curious, it's innocent, and expected to find some people be like, tell this dude to STFU. I was really blown away by all of you being able to identify and verbalize and validate what I've been feeling so goddamn confusing and shitty over here. Hasn't been the most productive study day, but I'm going to go try and get some work done and at least enjoy the peace and quiet. TLDR, BF way more insecure than I imagined possible. Peaced out. Stories number 11. Aita for thinking about divorcing my wife after she drunkenly exposed me to our group of friends. Guys, I literally don't know what to do after this weekend. Posting from a burner account since I am connected with a lot of friends and family on my account. The issue here happened Saturday night. We had our friend group over. There are 6 of us couples in there and we were hosting at our house. The night was progressing pretty normal, we had done dinner and were just hanging on the couches chatting. Everyone had been drinking over the course of the evening, so we were all pretty comfy. My wife Amy, all names fake, was talking with one of other girls about my new job. I recently got a promotion that comes with a nice raise. The downside is that I have to travel a decent amount, up to 2 weeks a month, but only 3 to 4 days at a time at most. We were excited for the changes the extra income will provide and how it will change our future, so the travel was something we agreed to being worth it. As they were chatting, her friend Pamela was talking about how they make it work since her husband also travels for work a lot. The conversation was actually quite helpful, honestly, in a lot of ways, as there were some good ideas in there. That is until it happened. Heidi jokingly said, and be sure to order some sex toys that are the same size as him so you can still have sex while he is gone. Now she was giggling, just making light of the fact that I would be gone and that the biggest challenge they had was the interruption to their sex life. No harm in this, right? That is until my wife says it. I don't think they make them that tiny. Guys, I went totally pale. Everyone stopped talking and you could just feel the awkwardness in the room. I think she realized what she had said because she tried to backpedal. But the damage was done. I just stared at her in disbelief. She just kept trying to backpedal and saying, I'm so sorry. I just stood up and walked out. I didn't know what to say or do. I headed over to a buddy's house. I was sober, I don't drink. I didn't tell him the story, just that we had an argument. But I feel so violated by Amy. Now the backstory here, what she said is most likely true. I am not endowed, at all. I have known this my whole life basically. Any guy can back me up when I say we are all conscious of our size. I'm just under 3-inch hard. I have always been super insecure about it. But our sex life also was never lacking because I made up for it in other ways in the bedroom, and she has never lacked in the orgasm department. We just get their order ways sometimes. Now here is where I feel like the I want to divorce her. I feel so violated. I feel like I can never see these friends again. I feel like all they will be thinking about when I am around is her comment and, well, how tiny is it really? But my feeling comes in because I also have known for a long time that it is small, so I steered into the skis, I guess you could say, and am more submissive in the bedroom and enjoy it when she pokes fun at it in the bedroom. But that was just us. But I just feel so violated with it being now public knowledge. But I also may have made my bed here by being okay with the dirty talk. I don't know. And for those wondering, yes, she has called and texted a ton yesterday apologizing for outing me, but I told her I needed space for a bit. Honestly, I don't even know if I'll read the replies. I just needed to vent this somewhere and I have no one to talk to about it. My buddy I'm staying with just thinks we had a fight. I feel so lost. I feel like an but just don't know if I can trust her again, or feel secure enough to see any of them again. Stories number 12. 32 years married, caught wife cheating. I'll try to make this short and concise, because it's really long and detailed. I just turned 64, my wife is going to be 69 next month. We met when I was 29 and she was 34. We lived together 2 years, and then got married, when I was 31, and my wife was 36. Before we moved in together, we were neighbors at the beginning of our relationship. She had a boyfriend, let's call him Ken. When we first started dating, I discovered that Ken spent the night at her apartment, after helping her set up and install her new stereo system. I never made an issue out of this, because we had just started dating. After we moved in together, I never heard about Ken again. My soon-to-be wife was on birth control pills, I was a police officer working a night shift, and would come home for lunch each night around 8 p.m. One night she told me that she was pregnant. We got married shortly after that. The child is mine, there's no doubt. A year after we got married, and our son was born, we bought a house. We raised our boy in this house until he was 18 and went off to college. We have lived in this house for over 30 years, and we still live here together. I retired from police work, my wife still works. She has had a great paying job working for the state for almost 25 years. She has actually been the breadwinner in our marriage, as she has always made more money than I have. Fast forward to last month, when my wife told me that she had to fly to Seattle to let some dishwasher installers into our son's condo, because our son wasn't home, he was working out of state. My wife often flies to Seattle to stay a few nights visiting our son, so I didn't have any suspicious thoughts. I dropped her off at the airport on 0208 and she was to return on 0214 so we could celebrate Valentine's Day together. She texted me on 0213, said she cancelled her flight, that she wasn't feeling well, and she would call me later. I tried to call her numerous times on 0214, it just went to voicemail each time. On 0216 she texted me saying that she just didn't know if she wanted to come home, and that she needed her space. On 0301 I get a call from our son. It turns out though the dishwasher story was a ruse, she didn't even fly to Seattle, she flew to Portland to meet Ken. She stayed at Ken's house from 0208 through 0305. Our son told me that he didn't want to lie for her, and he said that she has been carrying on this affair with Ken for several years. She even drove our son from Seattle to Portland on one occasion to meet Ken. He told me a lot of details that I now wish he wouldn't have, because the information crushed my soul. I tried to call my wife, but she would never answer her phone. I texted her, telling her that I knew everything. She called immediately after that text. She tried being coy when I told her that I knew what was going on, and lied to me saying that she was at our son's condo still. I told her that our son told me everything. I knew that she was at Ken's house this entire month. She didn't say a word, she just hung up on me. 4 days later, unbeknownst to me, she flew back home, threw her suitcase in her car in the driveway, and drove off without coming inside to face me. She stayed the night at her mom's house, and would not answer her phone. She texted me the next day and said that she had filed for divorce. I checked the court docket, and sure enough she did file for divorce. I retained an attorney the next day, and filed for divorce too. Neither one of us has been served yet. She's back in the house, and has been here sleeping alone in the master bedroom, while I have been sleeping in the spare bedroom. We have not been arguing, or fighting, I've just been trying to get her to open up to me, and talk about this, in hopes that she may be willing to try to reconcile, and repair our marriage. She has told me that she won't talk about Ken, or divulge any of the details, including how long this has really been going on. She has told me that Ken is just a friend, and that she didn't sleep with him. She spent the entire month in Ken's spare bedroom. Deny, of course I don't believe her story. She continues to say that she just needs her space, and wants to move out of our home, and have me allow her to use up the money in the savings account so she can make a down payment on a house that is solely hers, not community property. She says that if I am willing to allow her to do this, she will put the divorce on hold. I would live in this house that's in both of our names, and she would get her space by living in her own house, that is solely in her name. I don't want a divorce, I'm willing to forgive, but her refusal to be transparent has made it clear to me that she doesn't love me the way that I still love her. She isn't interested in restoring the marriage. Does anybody have any good advice for me? Lost and Alone, Stories number 13. Aita for asking my friend to leave my birthday party because she brought her crying baby. I, 27F, recently threw a birthday party at my apartment. It was a pretty low-key gathering with about 10 friends, lots of snacks, a couple of drinks, and just a fun night hanging out. Everything was going fine until my friend, Sarah, 28F, showed up with her 7-month-old baby. Now, I love Sarah, and I know she's a mom, but I wasn't expecting her to bring the baby to a party, especially since we had planned to play games, drink, and chat. The baby started crying almost immediately when they walked in, and Sarah tried to calm her down, but she was clearly struggling. At first, I thought it was just a momentary thing, but the crying continued for almost an hour, super loud and non-stop. It was hard to hear anything over the noise, and some of the other guests were getting visibly uncomfortable. I eventually pulled Sarah aside and asked her if she could maybe step outside with the baby or take a break in the other room until the baby calmed down. I explained that it was just hard to enjoy the party with the crying. She was clearly upset and told me that I should be more understanding since she can't just leave the baby at home, and she was doing her best to keep her calm. She ended up leaving shortly after, and now she's not speaking to me. I feel bad because I know being a mom is hard, but I also feel like it was my birthday, and I wanted to have a good time without the crying baby. Some people think I was rude for asking her to leave, while others think I was just trying to protect the vibe of the party. Aita. Stories number 14. Aita for refusing to let my sister use my honeymoon as her healing trip after she got dumped. So, my 30F husband, 31M, and I just got married last month and planned a dream honeymoon 2 weeks in Greece, just the two of us, relaxing, exploring, and enjoying our time as newlyweds. Flights, hotels, excursions all booked and paid for. Enter my sister, 26F, who was supposed to move in with her boyfriend around the same time. Unfortunately for her, and I mean unfortunately in the least sympathetic way possible, he dumped her 2 weeks before the move. She was devastated, and my family went into full protect and coddle mode. At first, I was super supportive, listened to her vent, helped her pack up her stuff, even let her crash at our place for a few days. But then, she dropped a bomb. She wanted to come with us on our honeymoon because she couldn't handle being alone right now and needed a healing getaway. My mom backed her up, saying we should be there for family and that we could always go on another trip. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. She fully expected me to let her tag along on what was supposed to be our romantic getaway. I told her absolutely not. She cried, called me selfish, and my mom guilt-tripped me about how she's in a really dark place. Now, both my mom and sister are making me feel like I'm heartless for not making a small sacrifice for family. So Aita for refusing to turn my honeymoon into my sister's breakup recovery trip. Stories number 15. Aita for refusing to take my boss's dog home every night even though it's just a temporary arrangement. So I, 29F, work as an admin assistant at a small company, and my boss, who we will call Greg, 40M, is the type of guy who thinks running things like a family means he can do whatever he wants. A few months ago, Greg adopted a golden retriever named Buddy. Buddy is great. Greg is not. Instead of, adjusting his own life to accommodate his dog, he just started bringing Buddy to the office every day. Which would be fine, except Greg does not actually watch him. Buddy is now a full-time employee. He roams around, eats people's lunches, barks during client calls, and once peed on the office printer. Greg's response? Classic Buddy. Anyway. Last week, Greg sent out a company-wide email saying he was looking for a volunteer to take Buddy home at night. Why, you ask? Because, get this, Greg's apartment does not allow pets. Apparently, for the past 2 weeks, my coworker Jessica had been taking Buddy home. Jessica is now moving out of state. Instead of, figuring out a normal solution, Greg just assumed someone else would take over. I ignored the email, assuming someone higher up would shut this down. Nope. Instead, Greg calls me into his office and hits me with, "So when do you want to start taking Buddy home?" Not would I like to. Not is this something I'd be willing to do. Just when. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He was not. When I said no, Greg sighed dramatically and went, "You have a house, right?" "Yes, Greg. I have a house. A house with 2 cats who would rather commit arson than share their space with a golden retriever." I told him that, and this man actually rolled his eyes and said, "Can't you just keep them separate?" At this point, I was done. I told him, "Greg, I am not taking home your dog." He looked at me like I had personally murdered Buddy in front of him. He said he was really disappointed in my lack of teamwork and then started making vague comments about my attitude and how it might affect my future here. And guess what? Some of my coworkers are actually on his side. One of them, who I assume wants to be promoted to assistant to the regional dog sitter, said, "It wouldn't be that hard," and Jessica never complained. Meanwhile, Greg has started bringing Buddy over to my desk multiple times a day and saying things like, "He really likes you. You sure you won't reconsider?" Buddy is now actively staring at me while I type this. My fiancé thinks this is the dumbest thing he has ever heard and told me to start looking for a new job. But now my coworkers are acting like I kicked Buddy into oncoming traffic, and Greg is giving me disappointed dad vibes every time I walk into the break room. So, Reddit, Aita? Or has my workplace completely lost its mind? Stories number 16. Aita for telling my husband, "This has nothing to do with you. I, 27F, and my husband, 27M, just had an argument. If you could call it that. So my brother just got a job and it's great, except he just got thrown into single fatherhood immediately after. He has a daughter, my niece, who is about 6 months old, and has no one to babysit her while he works as the mother suddenly isn't in the picture. He called me, asking if I could watch the baby during the week while he works, only for a few weeks, since he knows I am a stay-at-home mom myself. I would have said yes, but I can't. I am pregnant and have 2 young kids of my own, one of which does school from home and I have to do it with her, which we are still getting the hang of because we just moved. By the time I'd be prepared for that he wouldn't need the help anymore. He understood, and asked if I knew anyone personally who could help because he was out of people to ask and wanted to try and avoid daycares as he didn't trust it. He said he would pay and cover everything but he just urgently needed someone and I said I'd ask around. I don't really have friends and I don't know many people in general as I'm very introverted, but my sister-in-law, 25, lives with us, and was just telling me how she needed a job and needed money, so I proposed the idea to her. She immediately agreed, and so I put her and my brother in a group chat to talk, as well as brought my brother over to the house to have a face-to-face talk about it. Now they're not strangers, of course, they've met before and all, so it wasn't awkward. So they talked about the baby, what was needed, etc. My brother didn't have a long-term plan mapped out right then since everything was so abrupt, but my SIL was understanding and said she'd be okay with whatever, and that was that. I'm not sure of other details as they text on their own and it isn't really my deal, it was up to them, but ultimately it came down to my brother Ubering my SIL to his house early in the morning and then dropping her off at home, and seeing how things go, which she agreed to. Everything seemed fine until the day of, my husband came into our room and blindsided me with all these complaints on her behalf. He said my SIL had not eaten since the morning, that she wasn't comfortable and she was tired and that she didn't even need to be there because other people were home and could have watched the baby, and that they only gave her $100, etc. I was confused, because I spoke to my SIL while she was there to check on her and she said everything was fine. So I told him she didn't say any of those things to me, and I asked her and she said she wasn't complaining to him. I said to him bluntly, "So she is not complaining, you are complaining for her," and he said, "Yes." I told him I was confused, because he was throwing it all at me as if it's my responsibility, and that SIL and my brother are 2 adults who made their own deal, that was up to her and she agreed to it, nobody was forcing her. If she was uncomfortable or anything all she had to do was say it. He continued to repeat the complaints and said, "Do I have to get involved?" I told him the deal doesn't involve him, or me for that matter, and I don't understand why he's the only one upset here when it has nothing to do with him. They are adults. He told me he can't even have a conversation with me and left the room. I'm genuinely confused. Am I missing something here? My SIL is also confused as to why he even got worked up to begin with. Aita. Update. Hello once again. I know a lot of you were wanting to know what's happened. With all the support from you guys, I feel I do owe you that. Things have happened, and I needed time to be alone, gather myself and process. My husband kept on with the attitude, the side comments under his breath, and just being weird. I gave no reactions and ignored it because I got better things to give my energy to, like my pregnancy and my 2 children. Anyway, I was cleaning, and my husband decided to confront me, and ask me why I'm acting this way. I asked him what he meant, and he said I'm being a way towards him, and I simply told him I abso-fucking-lutely will not coddle him for an attitude that doesn't make sense for him to have. He got upset, rambling something about how as his wife it should matter to me that he's upset, and I said I have done nothing to him and I gave him chances to explain what was wrong and he didn't, so it's not my responsibility to fix whatever it is. He said this was all my fault, and I asked him what is my fault. I've done nothing but take care of our kids and our home as well as him. I told him that he made no sense, that nobody did anything to him, not me, not my brother, not SIL, and no one, that I wasn't going to deal with his attitude at all, and that he could find somewhere else to stay if he wasn't going to cut it out. He sat down and said, "That's what I'm talking about," saying that my lack of giving a shit and my no-nonsense attitude is upsetting to him. I asked him why would I be wanting to put up with bullshit especially while pregnant, and why would that bother him? He started all this drama over something that had nothing to do with him, and then it came. He took a deep breath and broke down with confession after confession. He admitted he had an affair, he admitted that he had installed a camera in our home without telling me in hopes I'd do something stupid so he could use it as defense, and that he'd figured out the woman he cheated with knew my brother, which is why he freaked about SIL working for him. He admitted he started drama to create an argument on purpose to give him a reason to feel justified, and my calm reactions for everything made that impossible for him. It bothered him that I never did anything wrong, because he had done something wrong and couldn't shift blame. I could barely react, I kind of just looked at him, my stomach was hurting, I just couldn't wrap my brain around any of it. He told me he was sorry, that he's a piece of shit and he doesn't know why he did it, that he loves me, tearing himself down, and I just told him to stop talking. I calmly said to remove whatever camera he installed, and to find somewhere else to stay. He cried and begged and I shut it down. He asked if I was going to tell SIL. "You're worried about me telling people or what other people are gonna think of you instead of worrying about the fucking damage you've just done to our family." He left, but wouldn't stop calling me, trying to talk. Suddenly he wants to have a conversation, how funny. I put my phone on silent and went to play with my kids, trying to be normal to shield them from it. I didn't want them to see me upset. I was broken up on the inside, had a scare, I kept having sharp pain in my stomach and then I started to bleed. I was fucking terrified, I thought I'd lost the baby. My family helped me out, I got to the hospital, baby is okay. I guess it was just the stress, being too much. After everything settled I got home, put my kids to bed and cried it out. We've been together since we were like 15, I've never cheated on him ever, we're approaching 30, like what type of shit is that? I've never had a trust issue with him before, I'm not a phone snooper, I just don't do things like that, and I didn't have a reason to. He's never behaved like this before. Maybe he has cheated before and I just don't know about it. I don't even care to know, one time is enough for me. I want a divorce. I will be fair about it, I will not turn our children against him, I won't drag it. But I am done. Thanks for listening guys. Stories number 17. Aita for refusing to sleep on the couch. I, 22M, told my girlfriend, 20F, that I was going to the bar with my friend, 24M, and his girlfriend, 21F, to celebrate her birthday. I was leaving at 7 p.m. and said I would be gone for at most 2 hours. I offered to grab my girlfriend fast food for a late dinner. She was okay with this plan. I even texted her a few times while I was there. I also only had one drink and one test tube shot. I paid for the 3 shots to celebrate her 21st. My buddy paid for my drink since he lost a bet on the way to the bar. I get home and my girlfriend is in bed watching TikToks. I hand her the food bag. Since it was a late dinner I didn't mind if she wanted to eat in bed. She gets up so I assume she is going to eat at the table, but she tossed the food in the bin telling me she already ate. Okay, that's fine, but we could have put the food in fridge. I would have eaten it for breakfast. I mentioned this to her. She starts going in on me, about how I am a shitty person for enjoying a drink with some poor friend's girlfriend. She saw the photo of us online. A photo of the 3 of us. I texted her throughout the night and even said my friend brought his girlfriend since it was her birthday. She didn't answer back. She was so mad that she told me to sleep on the couch. That I was drunk and she feared for her safety. I wasn't drunk and I wasn't going to harm her. I refused to move. I paid for this bed. She grabbed the blankets off me and threw my pillow across the room and knocking over my desk lamp. I told her to stop being such a bitch and to just sleep, that we could talk about it in the morning. She got defensive and left. I did not try to stop her or even text call. I guess she went to her parents' house. Her friends are telling me that I am the asshole. My friend and his girlfriend are telling me to break up with her, that I don't need that toxicity in my life. Edit, I apologize for my misleading first sentence. The original plan was just drinks with my buddy. The plans changed, his girlfriend joining us. Throughout the night, I texted my girlfriend to update her. I never received any texts back. I took no texts back as an okay from my girlfriend. To clarify, my girlfriend is underage and legally can be carded and escorted out by any staff for being near a bar or casino in my state. Update, I have been texting a few of her friends to clarify what was being said that made me an asshole. My girlfriend told them I had hit her in a drunken rage. I feel sick by this. A few believe me, but because they are her friend they have to be there for her. Thankfully she doesn't have a key. Her friends that believe me are coming over to pack her belongings. I'm cutting all ties with her. I don't know. I guess all I can say is I wish her the best. Stories number 18. Aita for telling my sister's boyfriend it's not his business if I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. So I, F22, have an older sister, F28, she has 4 kids. And she loves being a mom and wants to be a stay-at-home mom. And I encourage her to do whatever she wants. She herself understands that I have no desire to be a mom right now, if not ever. I have 2 other older sisters who are like me who doesn't want to be a stay-at-home mother. This is important in the story. Her boyfriend is mad at me, M27, cause he asked me when I'm going to settle down and that he can introduce me to his friend, M25, who wants a stay-at-home wife. I told him no, that I don't want to date anyone this year, and he got mad at me for some reason and asked me why, so I told him my ex-boyfriend left me with trust issues. My ex cheated on me for 6 months into a 3-year relationship. He told me we broke up in 2023 and I should start getting back out there. And I told him it's not his business and he dropped it. But 2 days ago he asked me if I wanted to be a stay-at-home wife and mother. And I told him no, that I don't, and I'm not even sure if I want kids, let alone to be married. He got defensive since his mom was a stay-at-home wife and mom. And I told him I don't see anything wrong with being a stay-at-home mom, but that I don't personally want to depend on a man for anything, and he once again got defensive and said not all men are the same. I told him he was correct, but again not all women want the same thing. He said my sister wants to be a stay-at-home wife and mom, and I told him congratulations on finding that with my sister, but that I once again don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. He got mad cause he overheard my conversation about me getting an IUD as well and told me I'm ruining God's plan to make me a mom one day, and I told him whether I want kids or not is not his business. He got mad at me and told me to get out of his home, so I did. My older sister is asking me to apologize to him and to not get an IUD since if I get pregnant that it's God's plan. And she also told me I should reconsider being a stay-at-home mom wife. I told her not everyone has that dream. And she accused me of not respecting stay-at-home mothers' wives, which is nothing but lies. My 2 other older sisters are on my side and said my sister's boyfriend shouldn't be too concerned with how I live my life. And that if I don't want to depend on anyone for the rest of my life, that's my choice. He also said I'm going to hell for being bisexual, so I screamed that I guess his girlfriend, my sister, is also going to hell cause she's bisexual herself, which he already knows about. Now their friends are calling me an asshole, saying that he only cares about what I do with my body since it's God's body and I should respect it and become a mom soon. So am I the asshole for telling my sister's boyfriend it's not his business if I don't want to be a stay-at-home wife mom? TDL, my sister's boyfriend is upset I don't want to depend on a man and be a stay-at-home mom, and is also mad I'm thinking about getting a IUD in a few weeks, and that I shouldn't mess with my body since it's God's body not mine, so I told him to mind his business. Edit: to clarify, I did put this in some comments. But 3 out of her 4 kids aren't even his. My sister has a 7, 4, 3, and soon to be newborn. Edit 2, I get asked this question a lot. About why I was discussing getting an IUD to my sister's boyfriend. I wasn't discussing it to him. Me and my 3 sisters were all discussing it at his house, but he wasn't there. He walked in though when I said I was thinking of getting a IUD, and that's when he butted into the conversation, and as soon as he said God's body not my body, me and my 2 other sisters started talking to him about it, and he raised his voice, so I raised mine, and we eventually left since I don't like conflict at all. Update: Aita for telling my sister's boyfriend it's not his business if I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. So this is the update. I already knew I was going to go no contact with her boyfriend, as I don't feel safe around him. But I went ahead and called my sister to tell her and why I chose no contact with. And she is now super mad at me, saying I overreacted and all that fun stuff. So I asked her if they were going to apologize, and she said they don't owe me an apology and I owe him an apology. He overheard us on the phone and once again got into the conversation, and I told him I have nothing to say to him. He told me he wanted to know an answer to 2 of his questions. Why I don't want to be a STHM. Told him it's none of this business and to stay in his lane. Why I don't want to marry his friend. Told him that he isn't my type and never will be. And to not talk to me again. He told me if I don't stop overreacting I won't have anything to do with my nephews and niece. And that NGL got to me. And I told him for my mental health I'm done being talking to him. And my sister said okay, you made your choice and we will make ours. So now I'm no contact with both of them. Also found out my dad found out yesterday, and this morning after I was on phone with them he went and yelled at Josh and told him to back off. And that his daughter wasn't for sale or anything like that. And they got into a fist fight and apparently my dad won. I'm not totally sure about that though, and my dad called me and apologized and asked me personally why I don't want to be a stay-at-home mother, so I told him the reason, which had to do with my dad, stepmom, and he apologized to me saying that he never meant to do that to her. He was very abusive to her. At one point I saw him choke her and screamed and he let her go but never apologized for it. So I decided to cut off my sister and her boyfriend, which sucked cause I won't able to see my niece and nephews anymore, but my mental health and physical health is more important to me tbh. Update 2, Aita for telling my sister's boyfriend it's not his business if I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. Hello everyone, sorry I didn't give an update sooner, I had a lot going on. My two other older sisters sat down with our sister and they all three talked about why I wanted nothing to do with her and her boyfriend anymore. She did admit she might have lost herself when she got with her boyfriend, and she wants to apologize to me, but she also wants me to apologize to him as well. My sisters told her I don't owe him an apology or an explanation. She got mad and said she wants nothing to do with me if I can't be the bigger person like she is and apologize. I told her that's fine as y'all voted for Trump and trying to take away gay marriage, I'm bisexual. My two other sisters suggested family therapy. And I told them no. I haven't seen my sister and her boyfriend in a month and I'm currently living full-time with my aunt helping her with her medical stuff. I don't exactly have time nor the energy to even go to family therapy if I wanted to. I did end up in the hospital recently cause of a car accident. My best friend was driving at night and most killed a deer. Luckily we crashed into a tree and only had a broken leg. I can't walk until it's healed. My two other sisters found out and lectured us though. None of us was drunk. We just went to IHOP for some breakfast for dinner and on the way back from IHOP it's when we got into the car accident. But other than that, nothing really happened with my sister and her boyfriend. I finally cut off contact a month ago for good. It sucks cause of my niece and nephews, but I need to protect myself from PPL like them. I decided to make them all a Gmail and email them all every day since I cut off contact, and when they are all 18 I've decided to give them their email so they can read those emails. I love them but I need to love myself more. It honestly sounds selfish. But I've gone to my own therapy sessions and my therapist is helping me cope with losing them. I've fully accepted that I never want to be a mother. It's hard but I don't think that mother life is for me. My two other sisters are upset cause they really wanted me to have kids but they also accepted my choice to not have kids. But like I said, nothing really happened since I cut off contact with my sister and her boyfriend. I did delete my Facebook and Instagram and Messenger accounts cause it wasn't good for my mental health and my sister could easily get a hold of me that way. But honestly I'm just living life and also living one day at a time lately. But that's it. I hope you all good luck in life and thank you for all the advice, I really appreciate it. Edit, my sister did give birth to another boy. She wanted me at the hospital but I said no, it was a hard decision but I think I made the right choice for my mental health. My mental health isn't in a good place but it's better than it was 2 months ago. Also I'm thinking about saving money and moving to a small town in a different state and start completely over. Update 3, for telling my sister's boyfriend it's not his business if I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. Hopefully this is the last update. A lot of things had happened since my last update. My father and I was watching Leo and Stitch a week ago when my brother-in-law came over by himself and asked to come in and talk. I said no but he wouldn't listen and came inside anyways with a bottle of wine. I said no cause I don't drink nor do I trust him anymore. He got mad and started yelling at me, cursing me out and told me I should drink with him just for tonight. I got scared and yelled for my dad. He came in all Hulk-like and told him disrespectfully to get out of my apartment. He still didn't listen so I called the police and he got arrested. I asked the cops if I could have a restraining order placed on him and they said yes I can. My sister found out about it and got mad at me for getting a restraining order and yelled at me that we are family and family should stick together. I said not if it might cost me my life, then no. I talked to my dad and we both agreed that I should move out of state. My dad of course wants to go with me out of state. So he's getting things settled on his end and I'm getting things settled on my end. I'm looking into moving to Montana or Tennessee. I've been looking at places and jobs in both states and deciding with my dad about where to go. That's the last update hopefully. Thank you for everyone who commented and told me I did the right thing and that I'm not the asshole. I appreciated all the advice. There is some stuff I'm leaving out since I found out he has a Reddit account and don't want him thinking this is about him and starting more drama. Stories number 19. Aita for not wanting to pay $100,000 for a princess wedding that the groom's parents want. So my daughter is getting married, youngest of 3. Our first daughter got married in 2021 and had a beautiful wedding at a rock-bottom cost of $15,000. Only 75 people came because it was during COVID and every vendor had low pricing just because of the times. My first daughter was thrilled and very happy. Now the youngest is being talked into this princess wedding that actually is being pushed on her because the in-laws want a big splash, very formal, over-the-top event. We originally explained to the girls that we would give each one the same amount for a wedding. Now with inflation that number has probably gone to $25,000. Ada for not wanting to pay for something I really don't want to do. I would rather give the newlywed some extra dollar to help with a house down payment. The groom's parents want the big formal expense. What do I do? My daughter says they will pay for it, so let them. Not getting a good feeling about all this. Stories number 20. Should I skip my childhood best friend's wedding because of her racist fiancé? I, 21F, am really struggling with whether or not I should go to my childhood best friend's wedding. We've known each other forever, let's call her Bella, and even though we only talk every 6 months or so now, I still feel that bond and miss her and her family a lot. I was excited for her wedding, until I realized just how insanely racist her fiancé, let's call him Jared, is. A few months ago, I was on FaceTime with Bella when Jared walked into the background and said, "Oh, is that the one who dated the black guy," while making a grossed out face and noise. I was caught off guard and immediately got the sense that he was racist. Some people in Bella's family have a history of being problematic with race, so I figured it was just an uncomfortable comment she let slide. But Jesus, it was so much worse than I thought. A couple days ago, things got insane. I was on FaceTime with Bella while she was in her parked car, and we were just talking about tattoos. I was looking at ideas on Pinterest when Jared suddenly got into the car and, out of nowhere, started saying the N-word. Mind you, we are all very white. I was super uncomfortable, and he could tell, so he started saying it even more, and then with a hard R, I told him to stop and that it was insane, but he just called me lame for being uncomfortable and said I couldn't take a joke. I failed to see how this is funny. I tried to move past it and keep talking to Bella because I'm bad with confrontation and was feeling really uncomfortable. So I was like, anyways, look at this cute skeleton, I think I'll sketch this one, and this absolute piece of shit of a fiancé had the nerve to say, make sure it's the skeleton of a black man being hung. I was so disgusted I just sat there in shock while they both laughed. Who says something like that? It's one of the most evil, racist things I've ever heard in my life. I said something like, what the fuck, that's insane, and that I was gonna go eat my dinner, and Jared made some comment about me being too sensitive and no fun. I have no idea what his idea of fun is, but, now I don't know what to do. Bella didn't make me a maid of honor or anything, just a bridesmaid, and I don't want to punish her for his racism, but she's showing her true colors if she's okay with this kind of behavior. It really makes me feel like I don't know who she is anymore. I need an outside perspective. Should I go and try to tolerate it for the sake of friendship or not bother? Update. I will not be attending the wedding. I have not spoken to Bella yet, but after reading everyone's comments and coming to my senses, thank you all for slapping me in the face with logic, she is definitely also racist. Stories number 21. Aita for refusing to go to my grandma's house on my birthday. It was my birthday recently. Usually, my family goes to my grandma's to celebrate each other's b-days. However, I didn't want to do that this time. I told my parents I'd rather it be simple, stay home and get takeout. I also have a complicated relationship with my grandma, as I think she can be manipulative, guilt trips, and not respect my boundaries at times. I've also realized that I'm not big on making a huge event out of my birthday and getting a lot of gifts. I told my parents about my plans, and they said that I could do as I wished. I visited my grandma a week before my birthday. During this, I told her I didn't want to come over on my birthday. She looked confused and didn't say anything. Fast forward to the night before my birthday, and my parents ask why I don't want to go to my grandma's. I thought this was odd, as they previously said they were fine with my wishes. I stated that I still didn't want to go. My birthday comes, and they repeatedly ask me to go. My grandma then calls my mom at 11 a.m. and says, "What time are you guys coming over? I have gifts." My mom tells her I'd rather not come over, to which my grandma breaks down crying. The call ends, and my mom says, "Well, it's like you put a knife through her heart." I felt both bothered and terrible. My parents continued to make me feel bad throughout the day about not wanting to go. I texted my grandma that I could come over the day after my birthday to hang out and open the gifts. She left me on read. I sat in bed looking at the wall and feeling like a monster. I caved into going even though I didn't want to. I texted my grandma, "I guess I can come over in 2 hours. Is that okay with you?" at 4 p.m. She responded yes at 5:30 p.m., and my mom and I got there at 6 p.m. I then opened the gifts which I honestly believed were thought about at the last minute. I later went into her kitchen and saw a Walgreens receipt on the counter stating the gifts were bought 20 minutes before I came over. I felt the other stuff she gave me was things she had lying around the house. It's not like I wanted her to gift me grand and expensive things. I feel gifts are optional on my birthday. If getting one, I would prefer something small and thoughtful. I also told my mom I didn't want to stay for more than 2 hours. I wanted to have time left over to go home, relax, and clear my conscience of the drama. This wasn't the case, as my mom and grandma wanted to watch a Netflix show. I stayed in another room by myself until they finished. We went home at 10 p.m., and I quietly cried in bed because I was stressed out the whole day. I felt weak and like I prioritized other people's wants. Stories number 22. Why is a young lady buying herself flowers? So I was buying flowers at a local store over the holiday season while the fundraising campaigns are in full swing. There were two older gentlemen, 65 plus, sitting in the lobby cart area of the store. Jingle their bells and God blessing everyone who made eye contact with them. After purchasing the flowers and making my way out of the store, one of the men very loudly asked, "Why is a young lady buying herself flowers?" I stopped dead in my tracks, locked eye contact, and just as loudly replied, "They aren't for me, they are for my friend who recently had her best friend die. She was 30 and it was very unexpected. Where was your God then?" I smiled the biggest smile I could muster and carried on my way. Stories number 23. Never gonna help a girl again. I swear. So basically I'm from Punjab, 19 year, and was visiting Pune for the first time. My aunt's relatives were there and my uncle sent me as he was busy with some work. It was a small function. Aunt's sister was coming home from Australia with her 1-year child for the first time. Enough backstory, now the main part. This thing happened yesterday, the event was over and I was gonna leave today at morning, so thought why not go outside. I went to Nehru Park as it was nearby. Interacted with locals, they were nice. It was around 6:20 when I saw a girl. She was like wearing a blue top and black jeans, and there were two guys following her, all looked like 16-17 years old. She looked panicked and asked why I felt I should go after them. Followed them for a few minutes, they entered a little street and one of the guys was standing there grabbing her by her arm. She looked uncomfortable as if on the verge of crying. I shouted and walked toward them. The boys ran away. The girl then started crying. I told her to stop and be brave, trying to make her comfortable. I helped her stand up as she fell on her knees, but she started crying even louder. Just then when 3-4 uncles came and grabbed my collar and started misbehaving. They were even recording me saying this guy is harassing a girl openly. I was being blamed that I was harassing the girl. I told them to ask the girl what happened, but she was looking at me as if I was the culprit. I told her to tell them, but the look she gave me broke my heart. My instinct were telling me, better run or you will be doomed. I suggested them to check the cameras there. Fortunately a uncle had enough brain cells to do that, checked those from a nearby shop and confirmed I actually helped. Bro, it was traumatizing. No of those uncles apologized, and one was even passing comments that guys like these come from Punjab to harass girl here and do drugs. It was difficult for me. I already do not interact much with girls because of few past events like my girlfriend cheating on me, my bestie leaving me because I told her to not fell for a guy who cheated her later, and a few more. But this thing has made it certain for me, never help a girl unless she's blood related to you. People might say she could be shocked. But I can certainly tell she looked at me with hatred and disgust. Even when those people were blaming me, she distanced herself from me and grabbed a uncle's arm as if indicating I was in wrong. Later she ran away in the middle of the whole scandal. Stories number 24. I appreciate the way I was rejected last night. I went on a date with a wonderful woman last night. It seemed like we were getting along really well. There was lots of laughter and questions about life goals, hobbies, etc. In the end, she wasn't interested, and that hurt of course. But when she was letting me down, she made sure to mention the things that she really liked about our date. She appreciated that I asked before touching her and made an effort to make her laugh. As she was leaving she also said she was happy I wasn't aggressive when she was letting me down and that she wished me the best. It was just nice to have some affirmation that I am doing what I should be and that the right person will also appreciate that. P.S. If success story is actually a great flair, but nothing fit lol. Stories number 25. My 24F, husband, 27M, is putting me on a restrictive diet due to a recent diagnosis, TW, dieting and past ED mentions. I recently was diagnosed with PCOS. My husband has taken it upon himself to use Google as his primary means of education. He has ignored all of the information my doctor has presented to us during appointments. He solely focuses on what he's reading online. As a result, he has decided I'm not allowed to have sugar. I don't mean no sweet treats. I mean if a seasoning has cane sugar listed, but 0g of sugar, I'm still not allowed to have it. I've had multiple conversations about how this type of diet makes me feel. He apologizes, says he'll stop, then continues, sometimes only an hour later. In the past he has expressed being less attracted to me due to some weight gain. He thinks I was more attractive to him when we first met. However, I was actively anorexic during this time and he is aware of this. He's saying the sugar limits are about my health and not my weight, but his past opinion on my appearance makes it hard for me to believe this. We're trying to have a family and he's saying he just wants to up our chances, but he's taking actions that the doctor hasn't even recommended, and in turn is destroying my mental health. What would be a good way to handle this? Stories number 26. I accidentally tasted the good rice. I'm a broke final year student barely scraping by, still 2 months away from my first full-time job, and my pantry reflects that reality. My go-to meal for the past year was 2 kilograms bags of the cheapest white rice I can find. Nothing fancy. Just carbs and survival. Anyway, I went to the store the other day, and surprise surprise, all the cheap rice was gone. Like, every brand under €1.50 completely wiped out. The only thing left was some bougie-looking rice in a brown paper bag with a tiny window that says, hand-harvested and aged for aroma, like it's a bottle of wine or something. It cost €2.79, and I sighed while dropping it into my basket like it personally offended my wallet. I just made it today with my usual cheap stir-fry veggies and soy sauce, and what the heck? It didn't clump. It fluffed. Each grain was like, separate. It smelled good before I even added anything. The texture was perfect, not mushy, not too firm, just this glorious chewy balance. And even without sauce, it tasted like something, like actual food. I could feel myself chewing slower just to appreciate it. Now I can't stop thinking about it. My mouth is having an identity crisis. What else have I been missing all this time? Is this what not poor people eat casually every day? I hate it here. Stories number 27. Am I, 27F, manipulating him? Boyfriend, 23M, suggested moving in together and splitting rent based on salary. My BF, 23M, American citizen, and I, 27F, on a work visa, have been dating for more than a year and a half and are in a long-distance relationship, both in our cities for our first jobs. I live in a bigger and more expensive city in the US. My boyfriend has been wanting to move to the city where I live and recently got a remote job offer. Throughout our relationship, until he got the offer, he never gave me any indication that he wanted to move in together anytime soon. He always says, I can never move in with you because you're so dirty. He has his own standard of cleanliness. Whenever I bring up marriage, he responds that he doesn't want to get married for at least another 5 or 6 years. He would even get mad when I jokingly called him hubby. That's understandable since he is much younger. The last time he visited, when he had the job offer, he was looking at apartments in my city online the whole time. I live in the city center very close to the office, paying $3,000 for rent, and will need to stay in this area in the future. He was mostly looking at apartments outside the center, talking about how he would find a small studio and hang out at my place most of the time. Suddenly, one day, he found some places downtown that had really reasonable prices, including some 2-bedroom apartments. That's when he started talking about maybe wanting to move in with me to save rent. He also said that we should split the rent based on our salaries. He said, I only want to pay $1,300 for rent, which is what I'm paying now. I have no idea how much my boyfriend makes. I work in tech, so my salary is very transparent. My base salary is definitely higher than his, but he always says he works overtime to earn more and has lots of investments. He knows how much I save after my expenses from my take-home income, and he always says that he saves more than me. I vividly remember that day, I was in bed, and he was talking about how we should split the rent. He even pulled out his laptop and found a rent-splitting website, asking me to enter my salary for a calculation. And after the calculation, he wouldn't have to pay more than $1,300. My parents and relatives have been wanting me to settle down. When he mentioned moving in together, I was initially only worried about whether I should move in with him at all, especially since he clearly doesn't want to marry me yet. However, after discussing it with my relatives, I realized that he had been the one suggesting everything. He was the one who brought up moving in together and the one who suggested that I pay more rent. I told my boyfriend that I wouldn't move in with him unless we were getting married in the future, and I also told him that the rent split was unfair. English is my second language, and I'm not great at debating in English, but I argued that although I earn more than him, my living expenses are also higher. I buy a lot of clothes, personal care products, and makeup. Historically, removing this, as I didn't mean that we need to follow a tradition. And gender inequality is not a historical issue, it's still ongoing. Men have contributed more financially in relationships due to societal advantages toward men, career advancement, the higher standards placed on women, women's pregnancy, and time spent on taking care of kids. I believe we should split rent 50-50 if we move in together. He made a Reddit post about me with a higher salary but refusing to pay more for rent today. He told me the post blew up, but he refused to share it with me, if anyone can help find the post. He only read it and its comments to me. In that post, he claimed that we both wanted to move forward in our relationship, which is why we wanted to move in together. But that's not true for either of us. I never assumed we would move in together soon because of what he had previously told me about me and marriage. He also mentioned in the post that I make double his salary, but I never even knew how much he made. Based on what he told me before, I assumed he earned only slightly less than me. When I explained my side of the story, he claimed that the story he posted was the truth and insisted that I'm lying and manipulating him. He said he wanted to move in with me as a step forward in our relationship from the beginning. I barely use Reddit. But now, I also want to make my own post to explain what actually happened. I have a very good memory, and I have my chat history from when I discussed this thing with my relatives when it happened. So am I manipulating him? Edited. Want to make a few edits before I get off Reddit. I need to catch up on work tomorrow to keep my high-salaried job. I just realized he stated that I earn $170,000 per year in his post. That's not true. My base salary is around $120,000 pre-tax, and the $170,000 includes stocks that are vested in the future. Also, tonight when I was arguing with him over the phone, he said that if I got promoted, my salary would be exactly double than his. Again, when counting in future salary, two-bedroom apartments are never $3,000 in the city, decent ones are around $4,500. So if he pays for $1,300, I need to pay more than $3,000. He has been attacking me by saying I date him for a green card. I clearly remember he told me once when his family asked him if we were going to get married, he told them he wouldn't marry me until I got my green card on my own through work sponsorship. And what am I getting out of this relationship? No financial support, no emotional support. Should I be done with charity relationships? I don't think it's unethical to ask for something in a relationship. For the statement, men have contributed more financially in relationships, I'm only stating facts here. We have been splitting expenses 50-50 throughout the relationship, and I have never received anything huge from him. After I confronted him about his arrangement, he changed all his narratives. He claimed he wanted to move in for our relationship and that he was only moving to the city center for me. When I told him I would only move in with him if our relationship was moving forward, he twisted the logic, saying, only moving in is a way of moving forward. Stories number 28. Aita for having Dr. Pepper in my water bottle at the gym. I, 20F, love Dr. Pepper. I probably drink like a can a day, which, I totally know isn't great, but I eat super healthy and go to the gym religiously, where this incident took place. Me and my boyfriend, Charlie, 22M, usually work out together. Yesterday evening, before we went to the gym, I filled up my water bottle with Dr. Pepper. I hadn't had one yet that day, and was craving it bad. If I needed actual water at the gym, I was just planning on drinking from the water fountain, so my boyfriend didn't have limited water because I wasn't bringing any extra. I made sure to tell Charlie this, as he really doesn't like Dr. Pepper, and I didn't want him drinking some from my water bottle. We sometimes will take sips from each other's bottles. He just said okay, no problem, and that he'll avoid my bottle. Fast forward to when we were wrapping up at the gym, Charlie had had an intense set, and just grabbed the first bottle he saw, which happened to be mine. Before I could even look or react, he was spitting the Dr. Pepper out on the ground. He was spluttering angrily at me, and told me it was such a stupid idea to put the Dr. Pepper in my bottle, and that I should have yelled to him when he picked it up. I told him I'm sorry that he had a mouthful of Dr. Pepper when he was so out of breath and wanted water, but that I didn't have any time to tell him because he was too quick, and I was focusing on counting my own sets. He wouldn't really take this as an answer and just stormed off, which was super embarrassing as I was the one who had to clean his mess up. By the time I ran out of the gym to catch up to him, he had already messaged me that he left in an Uber. He's only sent me one text since yesterday, that we'll talk about my Dr. Pepper thing later. I'm literally so confused, and I just need to know if I was wrong. Stories number 29. There's nothing scarier than insanely religious people during grief. I've never encountered anyone scarier than insanely religious people, especially in moments of grief. At my dad's funeral, one of my teachers came up to my mom and started talking about how Jesus saved him. In that moment, I was fighting the urge to say, I hope Jesus will save you too. It was the most inappropriate and insensitive thing anyone could say to someone who's grieving. Religion has no place in moments like these, and it's baffling how some people think their beliefs give them the right to push it onto others, especially when they're going through such a painful time. Stories number 30. A bit of advice for the aging or those caring for the aging. I am 88, wife is 89. We live independently, kind of, in a large city where our children also live. We moved here 4 years ago because of age and nagging by the kids. I am mobile and still drive. My wife has multiple health issues. We are college educated. The medical care where we live is top-notch. We have access to doctors with unimpeachable qualifications. We have computer access to our medical records and can send a message to our doctor via email. I cannot fault our medical treatment in any way, but our caregivers have hundreds of patients. When we leave their office they have forgotten us and are moving on to the next patient. We are reduced to information on their computer. One would think we are able to communicate with our healthcare professionals and to understand our treatment. I must admit that is not entirely true. We are so very fortunate our daughter is a doctor. Without her we would probably not be able to live independently. She does not treat us, she interprets our instructions and sometimes shares with the doctors information she knows only because of our personal contact. Very importantly, she speaks and understands medical jargon and how the medical system works. Here is my advice: if you or someone you love is in our situation, find yourself a medical professional to serve in the capacity as our daughter. A registered nurse has the qualifications. I cannot express how valuable it is to have our daughter accompany us on occasion to a doctor visit. I always come away feeling like the quality of understanding and care increased greatly. More than once she has recognized symptoms we did not even know existed and sent us to seek care from our MD. Twice her observation and advice has saved my wife's life. We need to make our medical care more personal. The price would be worth it. I don't know where to find these people. I feel sure there are many retired RNs or who have decided to stay home and raise children. Perhaps what I recommend can become a real vocation someday. I would suggest looking on Facebook or Reddit. Maybe you already know someone or someone you know knows someone. Additional thoughts. What an overwhelming and positive response. There are so many of us with same or similar circumstances. Your responses have given me a lot of good ideas I would like to share. I am thinking of starting a subreddit called Caregivers or something similar. It is to be a place for us to ask questions, share past successes, sometimes talk about our fears. Mine is what happens to my wife if I falter. It's all a work in progress, but it keeps an old guy's mind active. What do you think? Any suggestions? Stories number 31. Aita 4. Drugging my cousin's wife at a family barbecue. My aunt hosted a family barbecue yesterday. She has one of those frozen margarita machines that comes out for every party, and we were all having fun drinking margs, eating food, and catching up. I excused myself to have a smoke and my cousin's wife, Jessica, said she would join me. She asked to bum a smoke and I said sure, but let her know they weren't tobacco, they were hemp, and asked her if she was fine with that. She said she only smokes when she's drunk anyways and that it was fine. At this point I had switched to water because I was feeling pretty tipsy and still had to drive home later. Jessica on the other hand was going hard on the frozen margs. I'm not one to count drinks, but her glass was never empty. This is where things got messy. Jessica, clearly drunk at this point, ended up falling in the pool. Full dress, makeup, phone, everything. I ran over to help pull her out, but once she was out she started freaking out on me. She started yelling that I had drugged her and that's why she fell in the pool. It turned into a huge scene. Everyone ran over. Jessica was bawling and screaming that I had given her a weed cigarette and she didn't realize until it hit her, and that she's been stoned ever since. My whole family was staring at me while I tried to explain that it was definitely not weed. It's a hemp cigarette that I literally bought on Amazon. I pulled out the pack and showed everyone where it says 0% THC. I told Jessica I'm sorry she fell in the pool, but it's most likely because she's been drinking all day, not because of a hemp cigarette I gave her hours ago. Then in a very classy moment Jessica threw a margarita in my face. My uncle tells her and my cousin that they need to leave, and she said she was going to call the cops and press charges. My cousin apologized and said Jessica is just going through a tough time and he'll make sure she calms down. So I thought that was that, but when I told my friend what happened she said, I don't think she should have thrown her drink at you, but you gave someone a hemp cigarette when they were already drunk, which is kind of sketchy. Now I'm wondering. I did tell her it was hemp, and it doesn't have any THC in it, but maybe I should have just said no. Was I the asshole here? This is the cigarette I gave her. It's sold on Amazon, so it's not like it's real weed. Stories number 32. Someone described Passover as celebrating that God killed other people's babies instead of ours, and now I can't unsee it. I feel like in a lot of post-religious circles, people concentrate on Christianity and Islam, but does anyone else feel a deep discomfort with all Abrahamic religion? I've run into a lot of progressive atheist Jewish people who still celebrate holidays like Passover, coming up, and I'm curious how they harmonized the implications with progressive humanist belief. So much of Abrahamic religion seems deeply steeped in God is good to our tribe and so he's good, no matter what horrors he commits elsewhere. Edit below added after several comments claiming that Passover is mainly about celebrating escape from slavery. To summarize a comment I left in the thread. In the Passover story, the Israelites don't escape slavery, as escaping implies agency. In contrast, Pharaoh lets the Israelites go after God relents from hardening his heart, a horrific action that allowed God to pointlessly punish the Egyptians by murdering their innocent children. The Passover story, at its heart, is about God's right to glorify himself through freeing the Israelites when it suits him, sparing their children when it suits him, and punishing the Egyptians when it suits him. At no point do the Israelites have agency over their situation. Even Moses' bravery in standing up to Pharaoh rings hollow, because God is simply puppeteering Pharaoh like a villain in a play. Moses had no influence over Pharaoh. God made sure of that. The Passover story doesn't celebrate resistance and agency, unlike, say, Purim, in which Esther is celebrated for actively going and saving her people. Passover celebrates submission and relief that God saved us this time, and passed over us to hurt others instead. Stories number 33. 3 months of daily reading changed how I talk, think, and feel. Here's how. About 3 months ago, I hit a weird low. I was scrolling mindlessly, again, feeling both overstimulated and completely numb. My social battery was fried, I struggled to make conversation that didn't feel robotic, and my brain legit felt like mush. That day, I decided to ditch the doom scrolling and try something wild, reading like I used to as a kid, daily, with intention. I started with 20 minutes reading a day before bed. Within weeks, I was sleeping better, thinking clearer, and, surprisingly, feeling smarter and way more confident in social settings. This post is for anyone who's been feeling foggy, stuck in phone loops, or just not like themselves lately. I wanted to share what worked for me, in case it helps someone else like it helped me. Here are 7 powerful shifts that reading regularly brought into my life. I became more articulate. Conversations now flow easier because I actually have thoughts worth sharing. My overthinking calmed down. Reading slows your brain in the best way, like a deep breath for your mind. I feel smarter. Not trivia night smart, more like mentally awake and aware of the world. I socialize better. It's easier to talk to people when your head isn't full of static. I replaced phone scrolling with reading before bed, and my sleep improved so much. I got more creative. Reading fiction, especially, helped me feel connected to emotions again. I started finishing things. Books, tasks, thoughts. I actually follow through now. Some resources that really help me stay consistent and make this a lifestyle. Stolen Focus, by Johann Hare, NYT bestseller, by the author of Lost Connections. This book will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about attention. It exposed how modern tech rewires our brains and gave me practical, research-backed tools to reclaim my focus. Insanely eye-opening and weirdly emotional read. This is the best book I've ever read on how to take back your mind. The Midnight Library, by Matt Haig, international bestseller with millions of copies sold, a soul-soothing novel that blends fiction and mental health. Made me cry, in a good way, and reminded me how powerful our small choices are. If you're stuck in regret or decision paralysis, read this yesterday. Big Magic, by Elizabeth Gilbert, by the author of Eat, Pray, Love. This one cracked me open in the best way. It's about living creatively, but not in a hustle way, more like how to live with less fear and more wonder. I reread this every year. Best book I've read on unblocking your creative energy. Website, Be Freed. A friend at Google put me on this. It's an AI-powered book summary app that lets you customize how you read, 10-minute schemes, 40 minutes deep dives, or even fun storytelling versions of dense books. Think Ulysses but digestible, and it remembers your faves, highlights, goals and recommend books that best fit your goal. Now, I finish 20+ books a month while commuting, working out, or even brushing my teeth. If you've ever looked at your TBR pile and felt overwhelmed, this is a game changer. App, Ash, my go-to mental health check-in app. Ash feels like texting a wise friend who actually gets it. It uses AI plus cognitive behavioral prompts to help you reflect, regulate emotions, and process tough thoughts. Whenever I spiral or feel stuck, Ash helps me get grounded again. 10/10 recommend if therapy feels overwhelming or out of reach. Podcast, The Huberman Lab, hosted by Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman. This podcast breaks down the science of focus, sleep, learning, and productivity in an actually digestible way. I play episodes while walking or meal prepping. Each one feels like a mental reset button. If you're feeling disconnected, anxious, or like your brain just can't keep up anymore, I promise, it's not just you. The world is overstimulating AF right now. But reading, even just a little each day, can help you build yourself back, smarter, softer, and more tuned in. You don't need to read 70 books a year. Just one chapter a day can start rewiring how you think, feel, and see the world. And if no one's told you this lately, you're not lazy or broken. You're probably just overwhelmed. Try swapping 10 minutes of scrolling for 10 pages of a book you actually like. That tiny habit changed my life. It might change yours too. Stories number 34. I, F30, feel young, but my husband, M33, makes me feel ancient. About 4 months ago, during an argument, he said that he preferred 20-year-olds and that he could go find one. I think that is at the root of my insecurity around this. He has apologized, but I feel like it's burned into my brain. He has also said he wishes he could go back to his 18-year-old body if he had one wish, idealizing youth. He has looked at me and said I'm not the young pup you used to be. We met when I was 23 and I've since had 3 kids but I'm still in shape. He talks about women he works with as if their youth is an achievement. I found out Lexi is only 23. I'm not sure if I'm ranting or looking for advice, but I have been feeling really bad about it. I have never felt old a day in my life before he made the comment about preferring younger women. How can I forgive him? How can I start feeling younger again? If he values youth so much, how can I feel adequate? Has your spouse or anyone else ever made you feel insecure about your age, if you hadn't felt insecure before?